Copy that. Good morning and welcome to Concord, North Carolina for the CKNA Spring Nationals. As always, my name is Caleb Vieska. Alongside me here in the booth this weekend, Xander Clemens going to be joining us, as well as Alexander Searle. I know we were out in Texas, didn't get much of you there, but you're back. We're back here and ready to get the racing action going. Again, apologies for the inconvenience this morning, but we're ready. We're live and ready to get going here from here on out all throughout the rest of the day. So, Alex, firstly, welcome to your first CKNA event. I know you missed a couple last year, but you're a racer. You're actually perfect on this racetrack, 1-for-1 here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, well, I think that's funny that it's my birthday. I watched it. The racing's always great, especially in the 206 around this place. There's really only about 1 to 2 brake zones. If you have your cart rolling, it's really just one, and you want to keep your cart free. That's the name of the game around this place. I know talking to a couple of drivers this morning, the biggest difference from yesterday to today, cloud cover went away. The sun is poking out pretty good this morning. It's starting to heat up. It's cold this morning, I know for you and I, especially me on the Florida side. A little bit colder than I'm used to, but nonetheless, the sun's poking out. I'm starting to sweat a little bit, and the track's starting to grip up. And so for a lot of drivers, staying ahead of the game, keeping your go-kart free, that's going to be how you put it on pole.
Yeah, that is going to be a very, very important factor, I guess, going into the qualifying sessions later on today. And this is a lot better weather than what we saw last year as well. Last year was very dark, gloomy. We had some rain as well on the Saturday and just a little bit going into the Sunday as well. So this is some great weather, and I said earlier, right, in the year, and I think I said it on Tuesday on our 44th episode of KC Grid Talk, Alex, that I was tired of rain racing. I'm excited to see the sun poke out, and I'm excited to see some really, really good racing. But just really quickly here, some stats of this event provided by Race Select and Keith Warren and his entire organization. 31 different states / territories represented here this weekend. 57 entries from Florida. Just clips Ontario, Canada with 53 entries. 387 unique drivers with 438 entries. 45% of the drivers did not attend last year's Spring Nationals. Several classes capped early, leaving dozens of people on the outside looking in. And that shows you the demand and the great work that Greg Jasperson and the entire CKNA crew have done to continue to bring people out here to CKNA and seeing this event and a lot of other events. I mean, you talk about the Grand Nationals that we saw last year, some cars out on the racetrack as well. So that's a cool sight to see. We're in NASCAR country. We're in Charlotte, North Carolina, and, you know, we're in America's home for racing.
Get ridden, obviously, in a NASCAR. I know my mom's actually done it before. It's a pretty cool experience from what she's told me. Obviously, getting to go about $150, $160, I think, is what they kind of go out. They don't fully floor it out there, but it's still a really good experience for those people out there that get to experience it, obviously. But Senior Medium B heading out onto the racetrack now. Senior Medium A just hit the racetrack, and Owen Lloyd, James Overbeck were quickest in that session of warm-up. I know they were quick yesterday, but this is the class. This is really the headline class, right? So we did some lights. Two classes, just 15, 20, 25 drivers that are really in the mix to go out there and win it. Qualifying is going to be key today.
And you saw a couple of those drivers as well last year. A couple of them had good results. Talk about Colin Warren, got a win to his name, I believe, in Senior Light. Owen Lloyd was up there all weekend long as well in the Senior Medium class and a couple of others. And again, a lot of these drivers doing double duty, triple duty, like Owen Lloyd doing light medium and heavy this weekend. So it's a busy weekend for drivers like that, right? And a couple of others. And good to see more and more drivers kind of start to get up to the forefront. A couple of drivers out there on the racetrack now. Cameron Reed, one of our own. Hunter Bolton out there on the racetrack. And somebody has lost a side pod to start the morning warm-up here in medium. A lot of these drivers have already hit the track once or twice before already today, so we'll see how they all kind of shape up. Again, happy hour yesterday, a couple of drivers, you know, the happy hour didn't go their way, and the qualifying session may have not gone the way they would have liked, but issues for the 136 MGM Espionage Machine back, I should say, in home territory for Dylan Amundsen this weekend. Moved over to the TS Racing DLR team in 2024. Back here in 2025 with Paul and April Rice, who again, we talked to them this past weekend, and a great conversation on what they were expecting to see here this weekend for the start of their 2025 national campaign.
Yeah, it was nice of them to join us on the Good Talk this past weekend, and always a good time to welcome some guests, especially MGM, where I think they're the biggest crew this weekend, representing, 49 drivers this weekend, Caleb. That is a lot of drivers, and their hospitality's gotten much larger from when I last raced with them. I mean, they have about 20 drivers under their tent alone, and then obviously Paul and April Rice are going to be kept busy this weekend, running around to different tents from people representing MGM. So always good to see a team continuing to grow, and at this point, they're in the forefront of 206 racing.
Yeah, they've definitely gotten that brand out up to the front. I mean, you talk about the brands last year in 2024. Their brand was up there all year long. So was a couple of other brands, right? You talk about 2023 Grand Nationals. You think about the Coyotes and the PPK Racing team with Brandon Jarsacrack, John Seglum, that entire team that really just kind of put them out there and really, I think it was one of the breakout years. And then last year you had a lot of other breakout drivers. Jared Clark, one of those. Christopher McKeithen always going to be up there. Issues for him, obviously, in the Grand Nationals last year. But again, they were up there all weekend long when it came down to it, and a lot of wins that weekend as well. I believe they were able to win the Senior Showdown and just missed the out-of-the-box challenge where Cameron Reed was able to get it done with a really stellar over-under move. But again, more and more drivers. I mean, this field, I think, by far one of the most stacked fields that we've seen in recent memory at CKNA Racing Action. Last year was big for the Grand Nationals with over 500 entries, and it just continues to get bigger and bigger every year, which is, I think, the most exciting thing to see here, Alex.
Watching warm-up, I mean, it's no surprise to me to see drivers kind of figure out who's quick, who isn't quick, figuring out who's a good drafting buddy, because you're really setting up for qualifying, right? That's what this warm-up's for. It's seeing where you stand from yesterday to today. The track has changed. It's gripped up a lot. Lap times starting to fall and then get quicker and quicker as the weekend goes on, which is natural as the progression of the 206 class, of the racetrack, of the tire. But for a lot of these drivers, you are not going to see somebody go out there by themselves and put it on pole. It's just not going to happen. It's just the nature of the 206 racing, the nature of this racetrack. That is also part of this racetrack. The curves are high. You're not going to see drivers attacking the curve, and if you do, most likely it's going to end up like that one driver that we just saw go off the racetrack there in the dirt. And when that happens, you can pretty much just write off the race. It costs seconds around the race.
And that looked like the Coyote Machine. I believe could have been the 716 of Jordan Klein. I believe she's a rookie in this class as well. So, again, just getting out there with some of the senior drivers right at her first major national event in CKNA Racing Action. So, just getting used to it. A little bit of growing pains as well here this weekend to start it off. But, that's I guess, how you got to roll, right, to race against some of these drivers who have been doing it for quite some time. Jed Perkins as well, back in the seat this weekend. Good to see Jed out there as well. Has worked a couple of events with us in the past. We're going to see Jed out there, who actually just graduated from college at the University of Florida in Gainesville. I know you're happy about that, Alex. So good to see Jed back out here at the racetrack, and his dad, James Perkins, out here racing as well. But top of the timing turn.
Jed's got a roll right now, though.
Yeah, he's done a pretty good job to get himself up there, up the timing turn as well.
He talked this morning. He was struggling. He said he was about mid-pack, needed a couple more tenths. He's within 3 tenths now of the top group of McKeithen, Cameron Reed, Jared Clark, sorry. Look at the gap between the top, 10? Less than 2 tenths. Less than a tenth, your top 7. And this is only half the senior medium crew. This is how close it's going to be. It's how important it is to time the draft. It's one thing to push somebody for an entire lap. Another thing is timing the draft. I watched the likes of Caleb Rivera earlier on in the session. He was running around by himself with a bit of a lazy toe, and it put him top of the board early on in the session. That's going to be the name of the game. Jared Clark, Cameron Reed, they're doing it right as well. That's why they're P2, P3 at the moment. They're pushing each other, but they're timing the draft, especially for Cameron Reed. She's coming off the corner, giving Jared Clark a bit of a gap, getting the toe, and giving him the push. So I think this is going to be probably the winning lottery ticket, right, to go out there and put it on pole later today for all the classes.
And you saw the 29 there. The back of that suit said Jarsakrak, but it's actually Aiden Lorenko out here. He's currently 7th in the 29 Coyote machine. Checkered flag in the air this time around. Christopher McKeithen tops the timing charts. Former Grand National champion in 2023, and the, I guess, reigning out-of-the-box challenge champion, the 609 of Cameron Reed for CRG USA and Reed Motorsports. Finds herself in second. Back to Jared Clark, Will Lawler, Caleb G, your top 5 here for what I think is the first half of our senior meeting. It could be our second half. Yeah, my apologies there. Second half of the senior meeting class at just the racetrack. Again, you look down the order. This is not yet how they're going to mesh with the other drivers. Colin Warren, I believe Henry Bueller was out there on the racetrack as well earlier. So I mean, all of them are going to mesh together when it comes down to it later on as well. And qualifying is going to be the biggest kind of marker that we're going to start to see where everybody stacks up. And you see the no times. I think it's for everybody who did not indeed have a transponder on their card here to start this one out. So Bryce Frank, Gavin Isaacs, Michael Robbins, and Henry Bueller, I believe, debuting a new chassis this weekend for Steel Motorsports, the Stealth chassis by Burrell Art. So a couple of drivers as well. Dr. Todd Barron on that chassis as well this weekend, and I believe Eric Fagan making the move over to the Burrell Art team as well to start his 2025 campaign. And again, a little bit of a break in the action, an hour time for our drivers meeting, and I believe a lunch break as well before we hit qualifying racing action. I'm not sure if we're going to have that, so check the schedule on our side.
Yeah,
but
drivers meeting at 10:10 local time here in Charlotte. Lunch break also later on today at 1:45 after the first after all the qualifying action is underway. But that was the final warm-up of the day. 10:10 for all the drivers here in the paddock, and everyone watching back at home wants to know when the drivers meeting is. 10:10 local time here in Charlotte. We'll come back for qualifying action 11:15 Eastern Standard Time for junior qualifying.
My mistake there. We'll be back with more racing action getting set to come your way for the 2025 edition of the Cup Karts North America Sprint Nationals. You're watching Kart Chasers live action of some of the best 206 racing in the world. We'll be right back.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200?
I'm tired of all this Brandon business, okay? Brandon this, Brandon that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats, they got MXCs. And if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental US over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR?
MXC rims.
Who is it going to be? It's Sean Perez who wins in Crescent.
Ty Fisher wins $1,000 in KA100 Junior.
Alex Stanfield played it perfectly here, told him to wait. Stanfield wins the Duffy in 2024 for TV Karts.
Amarillo Kart Complex is now the official distributor for TV Kart in the continental U.S. Become a dealer today.
Ready to elevate your racing game? Introducing Apex, your 24/7 personal karting coach. Apex is your ultimate racing companion. Get expert advice anytime, anywhere. From setup tips to mental strategies, Apex has you covered. Fine-tune your car for peak performance. Get personalized advice on adjustments like tire pressure and chassis settings. Apex helps you master the track, from overtaking strategies to wet weather driving techniques, and to resilience to perform under pressure. Apex keeps you focused, confident, and race ready.
Using Apex is simple. Sign up, ask your question, and receive instant advice from top-tier coaches. With Apex, your personal karting coach, you're never alone. Get instant expert advice on everything from setup to technique. Unlock your full potential with Apex. Your journey to victory starts here. Happy racing.
It's pretty good compared to our voice level. I like it, Alex.
Yeah, no, that's pretty good.
If you want it quieter,
No, I'm good. I like it.
We use Discord for commercials. Whatever's easy. Bottom third of qualifying already hit the racetrack here for your junior class. We're here with the middle third of the qualifying session. Again, how they finished in happy hour yesterday was how the three groups were split up here. We have the middle group now hitting the racetrack. A couple of drivers starting to work their way up the order already in a couple of the MGMs. Meyer Lewis currently the quickest out on the racetrack in this junior class for the BJR PPK Coyote team here this weekend. Spoke a little with John Seglum, Brandon Jarsakrak, and Jim Lapari as well here this weekend. And again, a very, very busy tent for them this weekend with over 30 drivers, I believe 39 drivers, Alex, if I'm not mistaken, under their tent directly, and then a lot more Coyotes as well spread out across the paddock. So a lot of work for Paulie Massimino, who's not racing this weekend, for Brandon Jarsakrak as well, John Seglum, Jim Lapari, and the entire Coyote organization as well for Paul and April Rice with the MGM team this weekend. A couple of their drivers already working their way. Kellen Weiss up to 6th in the 096. That's the driver that we're following around on your screen there, but a lot more. And again, in qualifying, the biggest thing to note, you're not allowed to push here, Alex, so that will remove your fastest lap time if you are pushing somebody along the racetrack, or if you are getting pushed as well. So track position and qualifying in a good group, measuring the toe and the draft as well is one of the big things at a racetrack like the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I mean, talking to a couple of the drivers during a drivers meeting, actually, discussing the no pushing, right? Because when you practice with pushing, and during the race, you're allowed to push. So it's a reset. It might be a bit of a gear change, too, knowing that you can't push. You can get a toe, but timing is everything when you can't push somebody. So if you start the lap on their bumper and you're faster, you're going to have to back out of it at some point during the lap. It's a 4-lap qualifying session. Usually your first 2 laps around this place aren't going to be that quick. So you gotta note that lap 3 and 4 are kind of the laps that you want to kind of rely on, right, for qualifying. But again, fastest lap gets removed. And, you know, talking with Dylan Amundsen, by the way, during the drivers' meeting, you and I both, Caleb, he said, listen, if your best lap is eliminated, most likely your second best lap is going to be 4 to 5 tenths off, just because of the way this track progresses, the way the qualifying works. And usually your first 2 laps, you're just trying to figure out where you want to be in line with everybody else.
And talk about the tires as well, right? You're going out on a sticker set of Vega tires. Spoke to Colin Warren. Says that opening lap on the Vega tires, the sticker tires, is very difficult to get around, and it's not going to be fast. You're trying to get warmth into those tires and try and kind of get them up to temperature. And speaking of him, he talked a lot about how slick it was, especially in that opening lap on the Vega tires. So again, that's going to be one of the biggest things whenever we get down to it in this qualifying session, getting those tires up to temperature and making sure you're putting yourself in a good position where you can succeed. And look like Carter Barkas, the number 10 for BJR PPK, put himself in a really good position, top in the timing charts here early on in this one, a 48.676 to get this one started, and that's the time that all these drivers out on the racetrack are going to try to beat. Again, a lot of drivers in this class moved up last year, likes of Christopher Wakefield as well, worked his way up into the senior ranks now, racing light this week. Derek Wargo getting set to hit the racetrack, and this is a driver that's been pretty good in this junior field, and we'll see how the rest of the field does and how they can get themselves up to speed. Brady Shad as well, one of the drivers that we've talked about so far. He's been really quick, and again, expect him to be up at the top. And the list goes on and on. I'm not sure if Lucas Steck moved up yet, but he's a driver to look out for Low Key Racing. Nathan Dupuis. Again, that kid from Canada has been really, really strong, and he's been in the go-kart, I think, more than maybe the majority of this field, but he's out there on his own. Nobody in front of him, nobody behind him, so it's going to be important to set a really good lap time here in this qualifying session, Alex.
Yeah, so we can expect, again, you're throwing on new tires, but not being allowed to bump draft does make the lap times slightly slower. If you get the timing right and you can, get somebody's toe throughout an entire lap and then pull out the pass on the front straight, that's your best bet at being close to the lap times you were doing this morning in warm-up. J.J. O'Neill is quickest at a 48.199. Right now, like you mentioned, Carter Barkas topped the board in that middle group at a 48.676. So half a second off of what they were running this morning in warm-up. I'll be curious to see what the discrepancy is in lap times compared to warm-up to qualifying when it was drivers pushing versus not allowed to push. Obviously, the track is getting better. A lot of drivers didn't go on new tires in warm-up versus qualifying. So it's interesting. And I think that what you noted from Colin Warren is fascinating to me, because it's like you put on a new set of tires, you expect it to be grippy, but it's not that first lap, that first 2 laps, and then it kicks in. And that's why I mentioned earlier on in the broadcast during warm-up of this racetrack, especially in 206 as a whole, but especially around Charlotte Motor Speedway, keeping the go-kart free is essential. And when you throw on the new tires, naturally, it usually grips up the go-kart. And as the track progresses and it gets more grip on the racetrack, you're going to find yourself being stuck to the racetrack, and usually you find yourself constantly trying to take away grip. Hopefully you're not trying to add grip throughout the weekend. If you're trying to take away grip, you've probably gone in the right direction, and just as the weekend goes on, if you could just stay ahead of that curve, those are going to be the drivers that are going to be quick throughout the weekend.
And again, we've heard from a lot of drivers kind of trying to throw in a stiffer axle into their go-kart, a stiffer front bar as well, to try and free them up just that little bit to remove the grip that has been pretty excessive in some cases, right? A lot of these corners are very fast-paced. If you find yourself kind of stuck onto the racetrack, it'll be hard to get around some of these corners. And again, you can already see the racing line. A lot of grip has been laid down by these Vega red tires. A very, very soft compound. A lot of drivers have said they're very characteristic for that sidewall kind of rolling over on the rim. So that's another thing that you want to prevent, right? You definitely don't want to be hopping out there on the racetrack here, Alex.
Yeah, we'll see white flag one more time around here for Charlotte Motor Speedway for these junior drivers. This is the third and final group here, so this is going to be who decides who starts in the front row for their heat races later on. Right now, it's Leighton Mole at a 48.514, so 0.3 off of what we saw in warm-up, but obviously one more lap to go, and this is usually what we call the money lap.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, lap 4 you saw for a lot of drivers like Carter Barkers, that was his best lap. And again, the times only get faster and faster as the session progresses. So, and as the tires get up to temperature as well. Derek Wargo there, the driver on your screen, he's further down the order. I think finds himself outside of the top 15. So he's really going to need to put in a good lap here on lap number 4. Leighton Mole, the quickest driver so far. Sam Tutwiler, the number 9, currently sits second. And Brady Shad here getting set to cross the line. Checkered flag in the air. Christopher Utzi, how about that for Steel Motorsports? A really good lap on that last one. Sawyer Chambers crosses the line now. Nobody able to improve, but you saw the toe that Christopher Utzi had there on Brady Shad, and that's exactly what you need whenever you talk about qualifying, putting yourself in a good position. Utzi in the 33 for Steel Motorsports did just that, Alex.
Yeah, textbook stuff. I was signaling to you on the final couple of corners of saying, listen, he's got the run here. I thought he actually caught Brady Shad a little bit too early, and maybe he did, but it didn't show there, and I think everyone watching the qualifying session on the racetrack or back at home, that's what you're going to want to see from your driver if you want a chance of putting on a pole position, is starting the lap a couple of kart lengths behind the driver in front of you and crossing the line next to them almost, right? Pulling out the pass on the front straightaway. So, again, textbook stuff from Utzi. Pole position, Brady Shad, Leighton Mole, Anthony Lewis, Sam Tutwiler, Hudson, Jack Erlin, top 6. Carter Barkis from the second group puts it P7. So
really
good run
good
there
lap
for Carter Barkis, Christopher Goulet, Matthew Landers, and J.J. O'Neill, the quickest driver in warm-up this morning, finishes your top 10.
And that could all be positioning, right? That could all be where you find yourself out on the racetrack. So for J.J. O'Neill and the Nitro Kart boys, a 10th place start. And again, I would assume, and I'm sure these heat races are going to be split up, a very, very big contingent in this junior class with the amount of drivers out here this weekend. And they're going to be probably split up. So indeed, both of those junior groups are going to be split up. So we'll see how they kind of mesh together, and heat races as well. We're not there yet. Still got a lot more qualifying sessions getting set to come your way. But when you talk about heat racing, they are progressive. So putting yourself in a good position for those heat races is also going to be very, very imperative. We're just wrapped up with our juniors in a really good qualifying session there for UT, like we mentioned. Your kit karts coming out next here in about 3 minutes time. But Alex, you've hit this racetrack. What are some of the keys to go fast here in qualifying?
I mean, I've touched on it earlier on, right? Freeing up the go-kart. I was actually talking with Matt Del Sol this morning saying, listen, I knew I'd be fast if going through the sweeper, I was turning right instead of left. If I was free enough to where the go-kart was not really sliding, but rotating through the sweeper, I knew the rest of the lap would be good. And so that's the biggest key there. Yeah, that sweeper right there, that fast left. If I was turning a little bit right, I knew I've rotated the go-kart enough. And then you have the two kind of double apex hairpins to finish the lap, right? The double left and then the double right. And if you can just get your go-kart to be a quick lift, pick up the inside tire and go, that is how you know you can roll around Charlotte really, really quick. And again, it's just being able to draft, right? It's having a good go-kart in a pack. A lot of drivers can go out there and do a lap and be quick, but can you run that one gear lower than everybody else and still be able to stick with the group? Can you run in a pack? And if you can't, you're going to have a rough time throughout the weekend.
And explain that a little bit as well, right, to the viewers at home, what it kind of means to go a gear lower, a tooth higher, what that does in the corners and on the straightaways.
Yeah, I mean, obviously with the gear ratios, right, I mean, you know you've got a good go-kart if you can start dropping teeth. If you can go lower on the gear and really get that top end straight away. The lower on the gear, the faster you can go on the straights, the tougher it'll be to get out of a corner. Now, the nice thing with a track like Charlotte, and when we go to the Grand Nationals later on this year at Newcastle, is they're fast enough racetracks to where they're mid to high cornering speed. If you find yourself in an RPM range where you can't get out of the corner, most likely your go-kart's too stuck to the ground. It's too tight. You're not getting the rotation we want. The axle's not rolling, and it's folding on itself, right? That's what we talked about with the tires and everything, and a lot of drivers struggling, especially on newer Vegas, right? So usually if you can, compared to your competition, if you're talking to everybody and it's like, oh, I'm running this gear, and you're running a tooth lower than them, and you're running the same lap times as them, you've got a better go-kart probably than your opponents at that time. If you're a tooth higher than them just to stick with the pack, it does two things. One, you're kind of hiding the issues you got with your kart by running a higher gear so you can get out of the corner. But two, whenever you get into a situation where you're in a pack, you're not going to be able to pull out the pass because you're going to be on that rev limiter before you can actually go out there and go side by side with somebody else. So it's tough, and again, it's the little nuances that make 206 racing so fun to watch.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, right? You talk about tire pressures, you talk about what axle you have in it. If you're running the same go-kart as somebody else, it's one of the things you got to look out for. And again, how loose can you get on a racetrack like this that is very characteristic for laying down rubber? And I mean, this asphalt, some of the best that we have in the nation. Very, very beautiful track and facility here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. A very historic track with a couple of big world major events coming out here just very long time ago, but good to see it started to get back into the circle of karting. Stars Championship Series came here last year. They're coming back this year for their Queen City Gambit, and the track's also on the national schedule this year for Cup Karts North America. You started off here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. You moved to the Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati, and then to Newcastle Motorsports Park, one of the best, if not the best facilities in the United States and in probably North America as well, with Mike Adams and his entire crew down there at Newcastle Motorsports Park. And that's all going to be at the end of the year in October, whenever the Cup Karts North America, I believe 9th edition of the Grand Nationals hits the racetrack. And you're also a previous Grand National champion. I know your senior days didn't go the way you would have wanted, but I guess a very, very experienced and I should say credited 206 racer yourself. Me, not so much, but you definitely have those credits to your name there, Alex.
Yeah, but the field has gotten better and better every single year that I've either participated, watched, or been a part of a CKNA event, and so it's crazy to see the growth in such a short amount of time, honestly, for a series. And it's again, credit to the entire CKNA crew, credit to Craig Jasperson, and all the racers out there that keep coming out to these events, right? We touched on it earlier with the data that we had. 45% of the people entered this weekend weren't at the event last year. So that is as cool as it gets. And as an event, organization, if you're Greg Jasperson, if you're the entire CKNA crew, you got to be super happy with that number in particular because, well, you got pretty much half the entry list are new, at least to this event from what we saw last year. So that's really, really cool to see. And again, always fun to come to Charlotte. Always fun to have the Spring Nats out there. These are the best of the best 206 racers in the entire country. They always put on a show for us, and this racetrack never fails to deliver, right? Because again, with the way that this racetrack is laid out, it usually is set up for a grandstand finish.
Yeah, there was photo finishes all last year. If you look on our social media page on Kart Chaser Kids, and Kart Chaser Grassroots, you see all the flashbacks that we provided. As well, a huge shout out to our entire social team that's been hard at work all week long. And how about some of the youngest kiddos, right? Some 5 years old, 4 years old, making their way out onto some national racing action. Maddox Knives currently the quickest in the 23. Mateo Romeo in second. Kip Kraus in third. Weston Kolar fourth. Beckett Hemphill, your top five. Back to Liam Bond, Heckman, Predamore. Go back to Levi Nason. Denahauer as well in 10th, Dozit in 11th. The list goes on and on. Booker Anderson, Maverick Reddick, Liam Lofton, Craig, Tomlinson, Clements, and Brumbaugh as well. Your 18 drivers here in the kid kart class. And this is some of the youngest kiddos, getting their experience, getting their feet wet in some national racing action. I know some drivers out from the state of Texas, Liam Lofton, Booker Anderson, Maverick Reddick, who I saw his dad, Josh, former Astros pitcher, World Series champion as well with the Houston Astros in our live chat as well. Good to see Josh watching on as Mav tries to get in some lap times and put himself inside of the top 10 as the session continues. White flag was in the air last time around. Looks like Knives has been the quickest so far today. Checkered flag in the air. We'll see what Maddox can do here in the 23. Mateo as well in second. Not much improvement from your top five so far, Alex. Some of the drivers further back. Heckman improved his lap last time around. Liam Vaughn as well. Prattamore in 8th, improved. Lane Craig inside of the top 10 as well. So a couple of improvements here for a couple of drivers looking to get themselves inside of the top 10.
This is a tough track for the kid kart drivers. It's a big track. It's a wide track for such a small chassis, and for an engine package that's not that quick. It's tough, and I noticed, a lot of the drivers out there, again, this is just getting your feet wet, right? Just, understanding how the 206 package works, understanding what it's like to roll speed through a corner. And I think, again, if you're the parents, if you're a coach, if you're the team of these kid kart drivers, that's the biggest thing to always make sure to let the kids know is, that's the whole goal of this entire weekend, right? It's just getting better, improving, rolling the speed through the corner. I think this is as good of a track as it gets in terms of teaching kids what it's like to open your hands, let the kart roll out, right? But it's tough. It can be tough in a kid kart, especially with, again, how low speed they actually are, to want to roll out all the way to the exit of the racetrack. But for Maddox Knives there, best lap number 1. It only took 1 lap there for Maddox to put it on pole.
Yeah, really good lap there by the 23, and as well the rest of the field getting some good laps. And again, it's all about having a good time. I think is key point number 1 for these young drivers, as well as learning. Learning experience is definitely one of the biggest things whenever you get down to it. But coming up next, your 206 heavy class, Jed Perkins getting set to hit the racetrack, and as well, it looks like a new helmet for Jed this weekend, as they're getting set to hit the racetrack. And again, 1 by 1, this will be the bottom third, it looks like. So for Jed, and looks like Matt Del Sol back there as well. Some work to do for a couple of these drivers to try and set in a good lap.
Here. I got some intel with Jed Perkins, and it's not the first time that they've done this. I've done it before, actually. I remember my last Grand Nationals event. He's sharing this heavy go-kart with his dad, James Perkins, who's running Masters. That is a lot of work for the Perkins crew there to go out there and come off the track. And Jed's got to run medium as well. But Jed's got to come off the racetrack, take some lead off the go-kart, and then his dad's got to go out there and run the same go-kart on Masters. Now, luckily enough, they're similar enough height. They drive similar enough to where the setup is roughly the same. That's a lot of work.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work, especially for Jed, who's got to run medium as well, and then James has got to run Legends.
That's a lot of work, but that's what it's all about, spending time with your dad and coming out here to the racetrack. So for Jed and James, good to see them out here. Matt Lida working his way out onto the racetrack, and if I'm not mistaken here, Alex, it looks like Nick Zobiak on the TS Racing VLR machine is at the back of the pack. So something must have happened to Nick Zobiak in happy hour, where he finds himself in the bottom half of the 206 heavy group, for senior heavy, the senior heavy group. So again, for Nick, it's going to be imperative for him to find really good track position. This is a driver who we saw race up at the front in medium and heavy as well at the Grand Nationals, at Pittsburgh as well. He was racing up at the front end in medium. Again, a scary incident for him, an incident where he just had too much grip for a driver of his caliber, and again, either no transponder on for Nick, and now I'm actually reminded his transponder wasn't working in the happy hour session, and he stayed overnight and made sure that it was working this morning for the qualifying session. So hopefully Nick, again, it could be the smallest things that can make or break your weekend, but you already see how quickly he's catching to the drivers ahead of him.
Here's the thing, right? If you're Nick Sobiek, you know you're one of the drivers to be in senior heavy this weekend. Now, on normal occasions in qualifying, being in the slower of the 2 groups or the 3 groups, if you're in junior, for example, it's not ideal. But we've seen drivers make it work. We saw Carter Barkus make it work from group number 2. And when pushing isn't allowed, it's a little bit less important which group you're in. Now, that being said, you'd want to be around drivers that are similar enough in speed to you to where you don't catch up to them at an alarming rate. But if you're Nick Sobiek and you know you are one of, if not the fastest drivers in this group, it makes your job of timing the runs a little bit easier, actually. Knowing that the driver in front of you may not be as quick as you, as long as you leave enough of a gap, as Sobiek's doing here, and again, he's clawing, his way through this, qualifying group. I think lap 3 and that final lap, lap 4, if he can time it right, he might actually not be in that bad of a situation. Now, obviously, you'd rather, again, be in a group where everyone's close enough at speed to where you don't have to worry about lifting during a lap, but it's not the end of the world to be in the slower group.
Yeah, you can definitely work out of there, and we'll see if Nick Zobiak can do that. Brady Atwood, another one of the names that we saw, I believe, in the senior showdown as well. Last year, the number 6 finds himself currently top of the timing charts for MGM. A 48.543 for Brady Atwood. Peyton Klein, that driver finds themselves in second. Back to Owen Mail. Michael Robbins in fourth, and Matt Del Sol, your top 5 on the Happy Kart as well. I believe making its second national race starter for the Happy Kart. Chris Hamilton, better known as Happy, again, developed that chassis and has it out here with Ryan Skorowski, and a lot of other drivers have done lots of testing on that chassis. Nick Terlecki and I believe more have been, I guess, part of the work and part of the development work for the Happy Kart, making its second national race start here this weekend. You see Atwood there, the number 6, top of the timing charts. Didn't improve on his last lap, so he's going to have to sit in a burner this lap, this time by, Alex.
That number 6 machine looks like it's rolling right now. Brady Atwood, he's got that go-kart where he wants it. I'm watching his hands, and he's constantly fighting slight countersteer. And I mentioned it earlier. I knew I was fast around this place whenever my go-kart was slightly turning the other direction of which way the corner was going. This is just the nature of the 206 around this place, the nature of the tire. And so for Brady Atwood, again, does not improve on his best lap, but still top of the board right now in the slower of the 2 groups. But again, that go-kart looks good. And the 48.5 is pretty competitive in the senior heavy class. He's put 2/10 on the rest of the senior heavy field. Checkered flag is out for the first of 2 groups. Atwood, Klein, Del Sol, Robbins, and Owen Mall, your top 5. Nick Stobiak didn't get a lap on the board during happy hour. Had to start last in this group. P6 is all he can do there. Solid run for the VLR driver, though.
Yeah, it's a solid run, but you got to think about what the rest of the drivers are going to put in right here coming up next. Brady Atwood, quickest. Peyton Klein, 2/10 back. Matt Del Sol, on his first race back in national racing action, finds himself further back in the field. Jet Perkins, 20th. And the list goes on and on with other drivers that, again, whenever we mesh both of the groups together, it's going to be a big ask for them to find themselves in the top 15. And again, heat racing action, they are progressive. So as long as you put yourself in a good starting spot, a comfortable starting spot, and you work your way through the field progressively, it's going to be the biggest thing, as long as you're chipping away at it session by session. That was the first half of your senior heavies presented by Coyote Racing Chassis. The second half getting set to hit the racetrack. Bryce Frank, Hunter Bolton, and a lot more that are getting set to go. And talk about Owen Lloyd. He was one of the drivers that was really strong last year here at Charlotte. Has been strong, I think, for the past few years on that MGM chassis with South Georgia Karting, who's been one of the drivers to beat in the senior heavy class, I should say.
Yeah, Owen Lloyd, a driver that I always tip the hat to him, right? Because running 3 go-karts in one weekend he seems to be one of the only drivers that does it. He does it every single weekend, basically. I've done it one time, and for those of you who have met me, I'm not the tallest or the biggest kid in the world. So running heavy for me was, well, let's just say we broke the kart stand. So that was the first and last time I ran heavy. But I've done triple duty one time. It's very fun. It's tiring. It's a lot of work. But if you're Owen Lloyd, if you're really fast behind the wheel, it gives you 3 chances to go out there and win it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, he was fast in every single class last year, light, medium, heavy. He was up there in the battle for the lead, and we talked a lot to that kid as well last year at the Grand National Championship, so I'm sure we'll be talking to him a whole lot this weekend as well, Alex. But again, a lot more drivers that are getting set to hit the racetrack. Elmer Edmondson, a driver who you shared the racetrack with for many, many years as well. Mo getting set to hit the racetrack for the MGM Espionage team. Chris Carroll as well, former Grand National Champion in 2023 in the senior heavy class, getting set to hit the racetrack here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, a lot more drivers to go out there and talk about, right? Colin Aiken, Eli Fox, Hunter Fox, Justin Wishart, AJ Roderick, all drivers that we can expect to be, towards the front of the field.
And again, a lot more. Not sure if Mark Steele's hitting the racetrack here with the heavies, or if he's saving his new Stealth chassis for the Masters class. Also looking through that field, I saw Bryce Frank there at the end of that group. I think Will Lessig in that one. Nicholas Kiefer out there as well. And it looked like Logan Stevens as well, who won one of the heat races at the Grand National Championship last year, finds himself getting set to hit the racetrack. And again, called the Charlotte Motor Speedway, but as you see here on the water tower, we're in Concord, North Carolina, the home, America's home for racing here. You see the NASCAR experience out on the racetrack, and the biggest 206 racing series in North America on the go-kart track and the kart track here with some of the best racers in 4-cycle in the world, I should say, as we get set to go green here. Colin Aiken leading this field away.
And Colin Aiken pulled out of the pits and just put his foot down. I got to say, I will be curious what the number 11 machine can do. Obviously, there's no pushing allowed in qualifying. You're allowed a tow if you can time it. Now, for Colin Aiken, he feels like he's fast enough right now to go out there and do it by himself. He was the quickest driver in happy hour. That's why he rolled off P1. But I think Owen Lloyd, if he can put a couple of laps together here and get even like the laziest tow possible, he's in a really good position to put a lap together here in the senior heavy field.
Yeah, and we also talked a little bit this past week on our 44th episode of KC Grid Talk that the chassis battle is one of the biggest things. Expect a lot of the same chassis and manufacturer drivers to kind of work together and push each other when we get to heat races as well as this qualifying session. So for Colin Aiken to have a driver like Owen Lloyd right behind you, I think is one of the big things. But Sean Meyer as well has been super quick on his Coyote chassis. Chris Carroll as well is going to be quick. He just went up to 30. You see the lap time starting to come in, and expect them to get faster and faster as the session continues to progress, Alex.
Yeah, Owen Lloyd right now looking to complete his second lap. He topped the board for a moment before Sean Mayer got around him, but let's see, second lap in the books. Drivers are already starting to go quicker than what we saw in the first of two groups. Owen Lloyd, 48.324. A 47.9 was the best lap we saw in happy hour. Now that is with a push. So by themselves, a 48.3 is a pretty strong lap time. I think we'll be in the twos, maybe the ones. Eli Fox, a 48.317. He now tops the board. Sean Mayer, a 48.196. The number 30 Coyote machine is rolling right now.
And it's going to be back and forth this entire session. Owen Lloyd finds himself further up in the field, second on the racetrack. And I believe Sean Meyer just a little bit ways back. Eli Fox currently second. Talk about that driver. Currently third for the New Gen Motorsports team out of Newcastle Motorsports Park. And there's your winner from last year. Ronnie Kleiss was able to get it done over Owen Lloyd actually last year. So the number 7 plate working his way around the racetrack. Ronnie Kleiss, where does he find himself? Currently 9th inside of the top 10, as well a lot more looking to get themselves into the mix. Jake Hevelo for the MGM team, the 332 up there and up in a second.
Yeah, good lap there for Hevelo. I got to say the 107 no there, Elmer Edmondson. Probably not the start of qualifying he would want. One more lap to go for these senior heavy guys. He's down at 14th at the moment, setting personal best laps. That's all you can really ask for as a team and a driver, is the kart continuing to get better. Looking at the top 5, nobody improved on their best lap on that third lap. There's a good look at Sean Meyer there on the 30 machine for Coyote. This is his final lap as well as everybody else on the racetrack. He had to make a pass into the sweeper, but it doesn't cost you too much time if you can keep the kart rolling. So for Sean Mayer, hop into the seat. Let's see what this final lap holds. Right now he's P1, but a lot of drivers behind him are starting to get the timing down on the toes. So as he crosses the stripe now, checker flag should be out here for Sean Mayer. What's it look like? A 48.3, no improvement. More drivers starting to cross the stripe. No improvement so far in the top 10. A lot of drivers still remaining to cross the stripe here. Sean Meyer looks to be in a good spot, Caleb.
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be enough. Frank crossed the line that time by. He was able to improve. 48.427. I believe the only driver inside of the top 10 that was able to improve his lap time on his MGM Texas machine currently sits 7th. So it looks like, and I think it's safe for Sean Meyer, safe to say that he's going to be the driver on the pole position. He's on the pole in senior heavy. Jake Hevelo across the line second. Eli Fox in third. Owen Lloyd back to AJ Roderick for Roderick Racing Development. Colin Aiken to Bryce Frank with the 31 of Chiarello. Ronnie Kleiss and Chris Carroll, your top 10. And you see a lot of the drivers that we're going to see in Masters as well later on today find themselves inside of the top 10, and that shows you the experience that a lot of these drivers have. But how about that for Sean Mayer getting it done here in qualifying, Alex?
Well, 4 MGMs and 4 Coyotes in the top 10, so they make up 80% of that top 10. So they have this senior heavy field on lock at the moment. Looking further down, a couple drivers to note. Sobiek, Hunter Fox, 2 drivers that we can expect to see towards the front, 21st and 22nd. They'll be rolling off from the 11th row for their heat races. So those are 2 drivers that, again, maybe not the happy hour they would have wanted. not really the qualifying they were looking for, but those are drivers that always find pace when it matters most. But again, I'm looking forward to this one, Caleb, because you have drivers like Sean Mayer, a previous winner here, a track that he likes, a track that likes him back, right? Hevlo, Fox, Lloyd, Roderick. That's a solid top 5. And then your fastest driver from Happy Hour in Colin Aiken went P6.
And there's a lot of drivers, like you said, having to work their way through the field, and again, qualifying, I mean, heat races is the biggest thing whenever you get down to it. I remember my first time and my only time running the Grand Nationals, I had a really good opening lap. You get in a lap 2, and actually had an incident on the racetrack, and that put me on the back foot going into heat 2, and just we never recovered from it, and that just shows you how important it is to have a good qualifying session, put yourself in a good position whenever you get heat races underway, and finding somebody to work with, I think, is also the biggest thing. We talk about 206 racing as a momentum-based class, and if you find yourself losing momentum going side by side with somebody, and you know, not putting I guess your differences aside early on in the race, you're going to struggle very often. Quick commercial break from our side. Looks like your legends getting set to hit the racetrack here next. We'll be right back with more action from the Charlotte Motor Speedway.
You need it? We got it. At Kart Eat Parts, we are your complete online aftermarket kart part superstore. From chains to bearings to bumpers and components, we've got it in stock and ready to ship straight to your door from our base in Ontario, Canada. Check us out online at karteparts.ca.
Paulie Massimino wins in KA. Paulie Massimino is a winner in OKN Stars.
Take your driving to the next level with one-on-one coaching from 2024 OKN Stars champion Paulie Massimino. Kart rental options are available if you'd like to keep yours at home, and drivers in all classes are welcome, from Briggs 206 to Mini to KA100 and X30. With in-depth data analysis, onboard video footage review, and lead-follow on-track sessions, each private coaching session will see you end as a more complete driver than when you started. Book your coaching session now.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200 from Acceleration Kart Racing's website?
That's because AKR gives you free shipping on orders of $200 or more within the continental US.
Okay, but I thought you were just getting a pair of gloves. That's what, 70 bucks?
But if I'm getting a new pair of gloves, I might as well get a new pair of shoes to match. And then on top of that, I'll get a neck brace because with the shipping, it's basically free.
Yeah, I do not think the math checks out on that.
Everything you need, all in one place and shipped to your door for free for orders of $200 or more. Exclusions apply. Spend responsibly. Shop AKR.com.
Are you looking for an advantage in your competition? Well, Kart Class has done the hard work for you. We've traveled to your racetracks to give you the inside knowledge. So what does Kart Class offer? We've got drone footage that captures the racing lines, visual markers for your braking points, acceleration zones, and the best overtake opportunities on your racetrack. Pedal cam to show you where to brake and when to accelerate, and 360-degree footage to make sure you don't miss any parts on the racetrack. We've covered 13 racetracks in the United States, and Australia, you're up next. So visit kartclass.com to get your track information.
moment here for Legends. We're about to be 3 laps in. White flag should be flying here for our qualifying session. The slower of the 2 groups here for Legends, but nonetheless, we've seen drivers, you know, put laps together no matter what group they're in, and that's really the important part of qualifying, is just who can time the toe right, who has the setup right, who has those new tires dialed in. And so for a lot of these drivers, maybe part of their reason why they didn't, you know, put themselves in the faster of 2 groups is situations like we saw Nick Sobiek, right? Maybe their transponder didn't work, just had a rough happy hour, but this is the time to turn it around. And so for a lot of these drivers, a 48.9 right now is what they're all chasing. 4/10 on the field at the moment for Galini.
Yeah, it looks like for some of these drivers as well, a quick turnaround. It looks like Ronnie Cleese was showing up on our timing charts there, so I think he's going to have to turn around from heavy, and Ron Clydes there, sorry, in 20th in the number 7, going to have to turn around and hit the racetrack here. But checkered flag in the air. Jason Galini, top of the timing charts here in Legends, of 48.954. Wayne Hanslick in second with a 49.599, and his fastest lap was a 49.3 across the board. Currently finds himself second. Michael Wells, a 49.414. Not much improvement from this bottom half. Jeff Sterling was able to go quickest on his last lap of 49.577. And again, you go down the order as well. More drivers there further back. Not much improvement. A quiet start for this first half of Legends out there on the racetrack. So we'll see if how the second group kind of fares up here, Alex, whenever we get down to it. And again, a lot more. Dr. Todd Barron getting set to hit the racetrack. J.D. Gunn as well. Todd Bolton, one of the drivers who was really, really quick at the Grand Nationals. I believe him and Sean Mayer went out at Masters, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll see how it gets down to it. And my apologies there. And very big thank you to Jerry Fandry, Ron Cleese, dad of Ronnie Cleese, who's out there racing. So not a quick turnaround by mistake. And thank you very much there to Jerry Fandry out there as well. And a huge shout out to our camera crew. Hard at work so far this morning. Jerry Fandry, Jake Faulkner, and Taylor Burris as well out there on the racetrack. So huge shout out to them, and to the entire CKNA staff as well, who's been hard at work since yesterday, getting everything put together in the very, very cold conditions yesterday morning. Good thing we missed it, Alex, but again, a very cold afternoon yesterday as well. So for the Spring Nationals, doesn't quite feel like spring. It does now with the sun out and you know, the sun shining on this beautiful, beautiful facility, but yesterday, safe to say, it was a cold one.
Yeah, but again, I mean, first of all, you're from Texas. It gets pretty cold there the first couple months of the year. I know TSRS a couple weeks ago, it was really cold. So I don't think you're allowed to talk about, you know, cold weather compared to the Florida boy over here.
Yeah, that definitely wasn't Texas. That felt like something else, but definitely not Texas. 3 weeks ago, I believe, for TSRS. And again, good to see a lot of the drivers that we saw there make their way out here to Charlotte as well. You know, we talk about Reagan Seville, the winner there in 206 Senior. Racing here this weekend. We saw McKeithen, James Overbeck. We're getting set to hit the racetrack later on today. But Todd Bolton, one of the quickest drivers in this Legends class and in the Masters class, getting set to lead the field out onto the racetrack. Nice little wave. Good to see Hunter out there as well, helping his dad out. Those two drivers working well together and pitting together as well here this weekend. A joint effort for the two of them. Hunter running heavy and medium, and then Todd running Masters and Legends as well. And it looks like some of the cadets or sportsmen getting ready to hit the racetrack as well next. All those young drivers already getting set to hit the racetrack, and the Legends as well. Phil Pignataro right behind them out of Florida, getting set to hit the racetrack. And the first time in quite some time, I believe Phil had a couple of some experience racing overseas on the 4-cycle package with Tillotson. I believe ran the World Finals out there, and now here making his return to Cup Karts North America racing action here in Charlotte.
Yeah, this second group for the Legends crew is pretty strong, right? I mean, you have the likes of Ron Cleese, Todd Barron, right? J.D. Gunn, Doug Cook, Todd Bolton. You have the likes of Mike Todd, James Perkins, Phil Pignataro, Tyson Swan, Eli Yanko from Canada, right? I mean, this is a strong crew of drivers. These are guys that, yeah, they're running Legends, but they're quick enough to compete with anybody, right? I mean, we've seen them do it. We've seen the likes of James Perkins, Todd Barron run heavy, right? James Perkins, I know up until recently, I used to run with James in medium, right? So these are drivers that are still quick enough. They feel like, you know what, at this point, maybe they want to save their body a little bit and run with the Legends guys.
And I bet you as well, I mean, it's been a while since we've seen James Perkins out here racing. You know, they didn't do, I believe, Charlotte last year or Pittsburgh whenever we went out there, and they missed the Grand National Championships because of the hurricanes that hit Florida at that time. So it's been a while since we've seen James Perkins hit the racetracks. But again, you look back to 2023 at the Grand National Championships, he was up there fighting for the lead. I believe finished on the podium as well that weekend. And again, it's been quite some time since he's been out there, but he's back this weekend, and as well for Dr. Todd Barron, he's back. Not on the same colors than what we're used to seeing him. He was on the Mach 1 chassis last year, and now this year, Todd Barron joining the Steel Motorsports crew and the Burrell Art crew as well. Done a lot of practice over at Trackhouse Motorplex to get ready for this big national event. Finished second in the heavy class alongside Christopher McKeithen. So for Dr. Todd Barron, a good showing for him last weekend at Trackhouse, and then this weekend, again, we're going to expect him to be one of the front runners as well here, like he always is in this Legends class, Alex.
Yeah, well, after one lap, Todd Barron's already found himself in P2, and I suspect this is going to be a good lap. He is on the bumper there of Mr. Todd Bolton, so let's see what this lap holds here across the stripe to finish lap number 2. And yeah, Todd Barron, a 48.397, 2/10 in the field. Todd Bolton P2 though, but a lot of drivers still yet to cross the line to finish their second lap. Phil Pignataro, James Perkins, the likes of those two, 4th and 5th at the moment. Ron Cleese, father of Ronnie Cleese there, tops the board of 48.302. Laps will continue to fall. We've seen it in qualifying throughout the morning so far. Lap 3, lap 4, again, we like to call them the money laps. Sometimes we've seen drivers pull it off in 2 laps. More often than not, though, your 3rd and 4th lap will be the best.
Yeah, there's Phil Pignataro in the 105. Has done some racing, not too much racing this year. Has been working with Bertie Stoffel all year long, getting him up to speed with the J. Howard Development Crew and TRG USA over in the state of Texas. So a lot of wrenching to start off the year for Phil, and I know he's been itching to get back in it. For Gunn Ray, back out on the racetrack here into turns number 1 and 2. Phil finds himself inside of the top 10, currently 7th, but you talked about Ron Cleese, finds himself up at the top of the timing charts. Todd Barron not able to improve his last time around. For Ron, a 48.226, so about a 10th and a half in between Dr. Todd Barron and Ron Cleese to start this qualifying session off. And again, we're getting closer to the closing stages of this one. I believe we're going to get the checkered flag here this next time around, so it's crunch time for all these drivers, Alex.
Yeah, and for Todd Barron, I will be curious to see what this lap has in store, right? Because he was on the bumper of Todd Bolton after lap 2, and he stayed on the bumper throughout the entirety of this qualifying session. Has he timed it right, or was he too close? He was too close there. No improvement for Barron or Bolton. Pignataro, no improvement for him either. James Perkins improves on his lap time, stays in 8th. Tim Stiefel improves. Ron Cleese does not improve. A couple more drivers like Don Newman, Eli Yanko, Doug Cook, yet to cross the stripe. There goes Newman, no improvement. Doug Cook, no improvement. Here comes Yanko, doesn't improve. Ron Cleese, pole position.
A very good lap there by Ron Cleese to put himself top of the timing charts. Dr. Todd Barron in 2nd. Newman to Yanko to Todd Bolton. Doug Cook, Phil Pignataro finds himself 7th. James Perkins on his return to the national racing action with the LSR Motorsports team finds himself 8th. And you go back to Stiefel with the Coyote team in 10th. I believe J.D. Gunn up there as well in 9th for the LSR Motorsports team as well. So a good showing for those couple of drivers. I'm sure Marshall Martin's going to be happy to see them inside of the top 10. And again, that Legends class, very, very competitive. That was only qualifying. They're going to hit the track later on today at about 1:30 p.m. Central Time, 2 p.m. I should say Central Time, Eastern Time, whenever we get into heat racing action. And again, expect that to be a barn burner race. Those Legends always deliver, Alex.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, we touched on it earlier, right? It's the Legends, it's the Masters, it's the Medium, the Light, the Junior, the Kid Karts, the Cadets. Every single class in general under Cup Karts North America provides action, but especially during the Spring Nats at Charlotte Motor Speedway, this racetrack delivers, the 206 drivers deliver, the series delivers, and it's one of the most fun times you'll have participating in a race and watching a race. I mean, like I mentioned, this is the way that this racetrack is laid out. I don't want to say impossible because anything's possible, but it's really tough to pull away.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be very difficult. You talk about the back straightaway that's, almost flat out in that left-hander. You have the bump there as well. That's been very characteristic at a place like this. We saw the shifters go around here. 206s again. You see that movement over that bump there on the exit. I can't even tell you the corner numbers here, but again, the exit of the big sweeping left-hander at the back of the track. And again, talked to a couple of drivers yesterday. Very, very small and very minimal braking at a racetrack like this. So momentum, speed, I think are some of the biggest keys whenever you get in a racing action, and as well in qualifying action here, right? Talk about how big the curbs were as well. So not scaling those all too much where you lose the momentum as well is I think, one of the biggest things where you find yourself unsettled in the kart.
That's the thing with, if you've never experienced a 4-cycle engine package and you're normally accustomed to driving or watching 2-cycle packages, right? Whether it's the Micro or the Mini Swift, the X30, the KA, the OKN, OKNJ, the shifter. Most of these drivers are at the limit or close to the limit of what the brakes can do, right? They're within 95 to 99%. A lot of the times they're trying to lock up their rear axle and then peel off the brake into the corner and really slow that kart down. You're going to see a lot of movement on that rear end. Less so on a brakes package, especially on a track like this. Like you mentioned, minimal braking, really only one corner, maybe two that you're kind of just dragging the brake into the corner to make sure you get that nose in. But you're not going to see drivers locking up the rear axle, getting that rotation. It's not necessary. You won't really see it at Newcastle either. There are very few tracks that I've driven, been a part of, watched with Briggs Racing that requires heavy braking. I've done a couple events before on street courses. We did an event at Pompano 5 years ago where a little bit of rotation was necessary from the rear brakes. The only brakes obviously on the package, but nonetheless, you're not going to see that with a brake. So if you're watching the go-kart and looking for the attitude into the corner, you're not going to see a whole lot, right? Like I mentioned, the biggest thing you're trying to know if your driver's fast and if you're back home watching, either your kid or a buddy, the biggest thing to note is their go-kart free? And you can tell immediately when they enter the corner, are they putting a lot of wheel into it, or does it look like the kart's rotating? Are they kind of turning almost away from the corner? That's a pretty good telltale sign of, okay, that go-kart's actually handling pretty good. That go-kart's not handling good. Now, obviously, there's levels to it, right? You don't want to have too much rotation to where you're over-rotating, and then your side pod's facing the exit of the corner. Okay, you got too much rotation. Now you got to go back to the drawing board again. But usually that's the direction you try to go throughout a weekend.
Yeah, very, very good breakdown there, first of all, Alex, for what, to look for here for a lot of these drivers and what it takes to go fast at a racetrack like this. Especially, I always talk about the tire. That was, I think, one of the biggest learning curves that I had racing a CKNA event was the tire is soft, the sidewall very, very soft, and it's easy for it to fold over on itself. So for the drivers who are used to driving the MG tire, used to driving the Avinco tire over in Texas, this is a big difference. One of the things to learn, especially, I think more so in the senior categories. For the younger cadets, I don't think it'll do that much, but for the seniors, learning a very, very soft tire is, or a softer tire, I should say, is one of the biggest learning curves if you're new to the series, I should say. But out on the racetrack now, your cadet drivers, the bottom half, out onto the racetrack now. And looks like a couple of drivers sending in some pretty good lap times here to start this one off. And again, expect them to improve as this session goes on and on and on. Beckley Anderson out of Waco, Texas, finds herself 7th. And a lot more as well. Samson Plord, they're currently top of the timing charts. Reagan Hodges, Hunter McBride, Matthew Woolsey, Cole Decker, Lane Donovan, Rowan Reddy, Jacob Rulins. You go back as well, just on the edge of the top 10 with Ethan Greiner, I believe currently 10th. Looks like some drivers made some moves there on the timing charts. So Samson Plord, currently top of the timing charts in the number 20. The driver there on your screen.
Yeah, well, in the cadet class, the way you approach a racetrack like this versus if you were, a junior or senior driver on the bigger chassis, it's a little bit different approach, right? The idea is the same. You want to use as much racetrack as possible, but you'll see some drivers actually turning in slightly earlier, maybe not using all the racetrack. Now, whether that is the right approach or not, well, it depends on how you set up the go-kart. But you will see some drivers try a shorter distance around the corner because the engine isn't as quick as it would be in a junior or senior, and the wheelbase is shorter, right? So again, you don't need as much roll speed. You don't need to, go out as wide. Potentially, as we see a couple drivers there spun through the final couple of corners. But again, just the way you would approach a lap in a Cadet package is a little bit different than you would in a bigger chassis, as the 33 there of, let's see if we can get a name to that go-kart, has spun around Cole Decker. And unfortunately for the 254, Beckley Anderson, she came around the corner and actually had to slam on the brakes because Cole Decker pulled out in front of her. So that's going to ruin both their laps and maybe the start of this lap as well. And this is some of the challenges that these drivers are going to have to face in qualifying.
And again, that's potentially, you know, like you said, gonna not be the best lap this time around for Beckley whenever she tries to get back across the start-finish straight. So not the best, I guess, turn of events there for the 254 of Beckley Anderson with LSR Motorsports and CRG USA. But a couple of drivers sitting in some pretty good lap time. Spencer Height in the 31, top of the timing charts for Nitro Kart. Bullpit in the 87, currently second. You go back to Plord as well in third. McBride currently fourth, and Hodges, your top 5 so far in the bottom half of this Cadet qualifying group. And Spencer Height looks like he just crossed the line again. A really good lap that time by the 31 at 50.230. So we'll see how those lap times continue to progress. One of the Intrepids making a move there as well. I believe that's Smith down in 18th, making some moves. So again, a lot of drivers still looking for some time here, Alex.
So that's Luke Bullpit, actually. That's the P2 driver
my mistake
here in
there.
Cadet. So the 87 machine is rolling. This is the final lap for the 87 here of Bullpit. He had to get around some slower traffic as the 08 has found the outside wall there. Looks to be okay. Just good to see
laser.
Yeah, good to see the driver moving around. But Bullpit, no improvement. Spencer Height, no improvement. Samson Plord, Hunter McBride, the top 4. No improvement. The 04 off the racetrack does not finish their qualifying session. That's Ethan Greiner, 14th as it stands at the moment for the Burrell driver. Unfortunately, that's the end of his qualifying session. No improvements in the top 4. Blaine Donovan improves to go to 5th. Rowan Reddy, Cole Decker, Reagan Hodges, Beckley Anderson, and then does it there. Your top 10. This is only the first half of your Cadet drivers. Expect the second group to maybe go quicker, maybe not. Spencer Height at 50.230 is a pretty solid lap time there for the 31 machine.
Yeah, unfortunate there for some of those drivers as well, find themselves in some incidents. So that is not the way you'd want to start, I guess, your charge and official sessions here as well in the qualifying action. But there's your top 15 currently in this bottom half. Still have another, I believe, 20 drivers getting set to hit the racetrack here, and indeed 39 drivers total in this class, and about 20 of them hit the racetrack this last time around. So 19 drivers getting set to go out in the top half of this group, and they wait to get the signal to hit the racetrack here as well, Alex.
Are you looking to take the next step in your racing journey? Well, look no further than PitFit.
With 2 locations in Charlotte, North Carolina and Indianapolis, Indiana, PitFit trains drivers all the way from grassroots level karting to IndyCar and NASCAR with top-of-the-line personalized coaching to improve physical and cognitive fitness.
For more information on programs, check out PitFit on Instagram or Facebook today. DPK Americas is bridging the gap between the U.S. and the two-time world champion DPK Alonso Kart factory team in Europe.
In partnership with Team Binnick, they offer drivers a complete career path from the Americas to Europe that allows them to continue their driver development on both sides of the world, all underneath the DPK umbrella.
For more information, contact DPK Americas at max@drivensm.com to take the next step in your driver development journey today.
Are you ready to get behind the wheel? From Formula One to NASCAR and IndyCar, all the pros start here. For more information, check us out online at mcckarting.com or call us and go racing today.
K1 Circuit, the world's greatest outdoor karting facility, is now open. Open karting and rental session schedules are available online. Rentals will resume today after the race event at 5 p.m. Thanks to Kart Chaser for live streaming the event at K1 Circuit. Your coverage will resume shortly.
do, and then you got to move so much as well in the seat. So for me, I really think it's a kind of a mental thing as well whenever you get yourself into the rhythm. But I don't know. I don't know if that works for you, so be it. If you're 6'7", like you said, like I know Linus Gugino out there as well is 6'7", so that would definitely be, to his benefit. But for some of the shorter drivers like me and you, I just don't know, Alex.
6'7". He's got a foot on us.
Hey,
that is crazy.
He's out there racing medium and heavy, right?
What's funny is because usually I tuck my head into the steering wheel, right? That's my go-to. It makes me feel like I'm going fast. I've tried,
but then you can't see anything. The straightaway is a little curved to the left here, so you're not even gonna be going straight if you do put your head down in from the grass.
Where I was going with this though is I've tried the full tuck, like we've seen Mark Steele do and a couple other drivers like Ian Quinn, where they tuck their butt into the seat a little bit and pick their knees up. I did it one time at Newcastle a couple of years ago, and I couldn't get back into the seat. I slid a little bit too far down, and I got stuck down there, and that was not the most fun thing in the world. So that was my first and last time trying it. Again, everyone has their own superstitions, their own strategies, their own ways of going around the racetrack, but nonetheless, like we mentioned, second of 3 groups out on the racetrack. Green flag's out now. Their first of 4 flying laps.
Oh,
and that's the 6:45, one of the Intrepids.
I think that's Sawyer Chambers. That's Josie Chambers. Josie Chambers was really quick out at the Grand National Championships last year, and quick 2 weeks ago as well at Speed Sports Racing Park for the opening round of the Texas Spin Racing Series, and he finds himself out of qualifying early, and I think that could be his problem right there. Looked like the hub just completely came off his go-kart, so that's going to be an early end to Josie Chambers.
And for Josie Chambers, no lap time set. Didn't make it back to even get a lap time, so that's going to be pretty much guaranteed last for Chambers for both heats. So that is incredibly unfortunate for a driver that we can expect to see towards the front pace-wise. So surely going to be fun for us to watch, and maybe not as fun for Josie, but nonetheless, that's part of it, right? You can be as fast as you want during practice. You got to really put it together when it matters in qualifying, and track position isn't everything, but it's a lot around this place. Passing is possible, obviously, especially in the 206 package, just the way that that it all races, but it is very unfortunate to see Josie not even put a lap together. 2 laps in the books. We're about to finish lap number 3 for a couple of drivers, and Antoine Lacherie tops the board. Cade Yeager, Kelvin Zing, Jackson Young, Will Lawler, your top 5. A 47.735 is the lap time they're all chasing. To give you an idea of how fast these senior lights can get to, 47.0 Colin Warren this morning in warm-up.
Yeah, and again, Colin Warren always going to be one of the drivers to look out for here in this class. I think you can even start calling him Mr. 206 at this point, right, with the amount of Grand National Championships that he has to his name. He won one last year as well in the senior medium class, but a couple of rookies as well in this class getting themselves up there in the mix for Trackside Karting Services, GFC. Jackson Young currently tops the timing charts up there. Eli Fox in second, Will Lawler. Back to Lacherie, Cade Yeager, Kelvin Zing, who has a heat race win to his name in senior light, feels better in the medium side of things, but again, just looking to improve here for the 666. And Jordan Klein as well, rookie in this senior class this year. She finds herself in 7th for the Coyote team. So again, for Yoshikawa, holding strong in 9th here. Cash Perkins as well up there in 10th. So we'll see how they all kind of stack up here in the last couple of laps of this qualifying session, Alex.
Well, a couple of drivers finishing their 4th lap. Brady Atwood, Cash Perkins, Cade Yeager, Will Lawler goes to 3rd with a 47.5. Jackson Young, Eli Fox, no improvement. A couple more drivers here finishing their qualifying session. Kelvin Zing doesn't improve. Emily DeMaster goes 10th at a 47.813. The lap time that the 3rd and final group will all be chasing is GFC and Trackside Karting Services. Jackson Young at a 47.391. That's quick, because a 47.0 was fastest in warm-up this morning. But again, with pushing allowed, it's no surprise that lap times are a little bit quicker. Now, naturally, with new tires, you'd hope to go a little bit faster than what you went in warm-up if you didn't put new tires on. But just with the nature of the tire, the nature of the racetrack getting hotter, who knows how this track is progressing. And right now, a 47.391, it might be good enough here for Jackson Young to maybe put himself top 5, top 10 when this 3rd and final group goes out on the racetrack, Caleb.
Yeah, we'll see the top 3rd of your senior lights getting set to hit the racetrack. Alexa Colin Warren, I believe Henry Wheeler going to be in that mix as well. as James Overbeck and the entire Coyote PPK team that are getting set to go out onto the racetrack here in a couple of moments as well. Caleb G, you talk about the MGM team being quick. He's getting set to go out, and again, a lot more. Dylan Amundsen on his return to the MGM team for Steel Motorsports as well. Isaac Malquit, talk about the start to senior racing action, and again, the bad luck for the likes of Josie Chambers to start out his session. And all tires seem to be on his kart. It looks like he must have made contact with somebody, maybe the driver who did lose a hub and tire out there on the racetrack. So just on the bad end of it for Josie Chambers, but for James Overbeck, looking to set in a good lap time here as well. It seems to be in good spirits. A little sizzle going to lead the field away with teammate Henry Wheeler right behind him. Colin Warren for TS Racing VLR out there as well, and a lot more getting set to hit the racetrack here, Alex.
I mean, how impressive is this, though, for Ike, right? For Isaac Malquit to go out there, senior light, first year in the class, and you're going to lead the fastest group out onto the racetrack in qualifying. That is impressive stuff there for Malquit, for Steel Motorsports. And again, a driver that we know is quick no matter what racetrack, no matter what engine package, no matter what go-kart he's at. He's a driver that everyone is looking at to be one of the quickest. And if he can put this thing in the top 5 in a senior field full of Grand National champions, that would be as impressive as it is. Now, Malquit obviously a champion in his own right, but in the senior class, it's a totally different game. 71 drivers, like I mentioned earlier. Going to see the green at some point this weekend, and it's no question as to why they're split up into 3 different groups. So further back, though, Henry Wheeler, a driver that we know can be quick on board that the stealth machine there, the Burrell Art package. We saw Overbeck. We saw behind Overbeck Colin Warren rolling off onto the racetrack as well. So this is where I think these lap times will start to tumble. I think Jackson Young at a 47.391 might be good enough for a top 10, but if you're in the 47.5s, 47.6s, as long as this third and final group can put some laps together, it will not surprise me if this most of the group goes inside the top 20, just with how strong it is. And again, anytime you can kind of keep yourself with drivers that are close to your speed or exactly your speed, maybe a little bit faster than you, with the rules of qualifying, you're not allowed to push. It's a benefit to be around drivers that are as quick as you, because you don't have to worry about closing speeds as much.
Yeah, and I believe I just got confirmation that Isaac Malquit got a win at Daytona Kart Week at the Daytona Speedway there for that race, and I believe wasn't able to get the win at the Winter Nationals in Jacksonville this year, but we'll see what Little Sizzle can do here this weekend. And again, for him, you talk about the Grand Nationals he had in 2024 in the junior ranks. Not the way he would have wanted. Definitely issues for him in the first heat race. Put him all the way at the back of the field. Had to work his way up, and I believe his dad bet him $1 for every single move that he made as well. So that would have been a big payday for Isaac Malquit there as well. And I'm sure Mark Steele looking forward to that new, I believe, well, not the stealth chassis this weekend for Isaac Malquit, but for the Burrell Art chassis here in Ike. We'll see what he can do and how he kind of goes along. And again, you see him out there already putting himself up in a second. Caleb G, top of the timing charts for his MGM.
Yeah, like I mentioned, this class is full of former Grand Nats winners, Spring Nats winners, drivers that race all over the country in 2-cycle and 4-cycle, like James Overbeck, who's a driver that we always can come to expect to be as quick as anybody out there on the racetrack at the moment. But for Caleb G, this is his home track. He's been, he's grown up with the MGM crew. He's done more races recently than he used to when he was younger, but nonetheless, always good to see him back in a go-kart, now doing the USF 2000 deal. He got pole earlier on last week. The first race didn't go to plan, but a podium in the second race for him, obviously. So on the road to Indy side of things, always good to see drivers moving up to the next level of motorsports. Second lap in the books for Caleb G, 47.1. Maintains top of the board. Warren, Malquit, Feck, Austin, Hill, your top 5. A 10th separates it. Then it's Adam Brickley, Henry Wheeler, Owen Lloyd, Jackson Young holding on a 9th, and then Christopher McKeithen, your top 10. Still 2 laps to go, you're qualifying.
Yeah, Caleb G setting in some burners here so far, and I believe that's him out there on the racetrack, the 7:04 MGM Espionage Machine lapping at a very, very fast rate. Colin Warren in the 7-11 as well has been really quick. They're within the same 1/10 of a second. 0.06 of a second separates Colin Warren and Caleb Gaffera. This time around for Caleb G, a little bit of a tuck on that steering wheel. We'll see if he improves, and he doesn't. Colin Warren as well stays stagnant on his third lap. Lucas Steck doesn't improve. Austin Hill, Dylan Amundsen in sixth. Went a little bit quicker. I don't know if he's going to be able to improve either. And again, we're starting to see a little bit of a stall here when it comes to lap times, Alex. But lap 4, we've talked about the money lap as well.
Yeah, but I don't know. I've looked at the nature of the way this tire is progressing throughout different classes, and I'm watching the handling, right? Warren's go-kart looks really good, but he's just naturally been one of the smoothest drivers that I've ever seen in a go-kart. But for Caleb G, he looked like he was sawing at the wheel a little bit, so I'm curious if it's just mistakes on his end, or maybe the tire, again, has maybe a 2-lap window instead of a 3 or a 4 that we originally thought. Let's see, Warren, no improvement. A couple more drivers here crossing the stripe to finish their 4th lap. Malco doesn't improve. Caleb G doesn't improve. Theck hasn't crossed the line yet. Austin Hill just went across. There goes Theck. No improvements for anybody inside the top 7 at the moment. Dylan Amundsen still has one more lap on his MGM machine, but this is interesting stuff. This is good to note for the rest of qualifying, at least for the senior light crew. It looks like lap 2 was the money lap. For Reagan Seville and Austin Speck, they went quickest on their 4th lap to go 8th and 9th, but if you're 1st through 7th, and then Henry Wheeler in 10th, their best laps all were lap number 2. So Caleb Gaffera for MGM tops the board, 47.125, good enough for pole position in senior light. Colin Warren, P2, Ike, P3, Lucas Theck, Austin Hill, your top 5.
Yeah, what a top 5. You go back to 6 with Dylan Amundsen, Adam Brickley, Reagan Seville, Austin Speck, Henry Wheeler, your top 10. Go back to Colin Aitken, Owen Lloyd, Jackson Young, Christopher McKeithen, James Overbeck, 14th and 15th for those two Coyote PPK BJR drivers. Cameron Reed, 16th for Reed Motorsports, Eli Fox, Aiden Lorenko, Francis Shelley, Gavin Isaacs, Cade Yeager. Man, the top 20, top 15 drivers in this class, absolutely stacked here, Alex, in senior light. And it's going to be anybody's game whenever we get down to it in heat races. And again, tomorrow's the day that it all counts, right? A main event. So we'll see what everybody can do. But for Caleb G and MGM Espionage, what a start to the weekend. Colin Warren, Isaac Malquit, Lucas Steck, 4 different chassis in the top 4. What a start to the weekend. Talk about the chassis battle. We talk about the team battle as well here this weekend. It's all mixed up. Teams, the closest to Lucas Steck and Austin Hill with Coyote, BJR, PPK. So those are the closest. Then you go back to Happy Kart out there on their own with Adam Brickley. But that was it for Senior Light. More qualifying action getting set to come your way live from the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll be right back.
So you will finally want to get behind the wheel, huh?
Yeah, I've been shooting for 3 years and I've never got to drive.
Well, you're going to need some more gear than just your helmet. Why don't you go to shopakr.com. They got their inventory online and they'll ship it the same day if you order before 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
They got shoes?
Yep.
Gloves?
Yep.
Rib protectors?
Got those too.
Can they make me go fast?
No.
Here at Acceleration Kart Racing, we've got everything you need to get on track. What happens next? Well, that's on you. Check us out online at shopakr.com.
your Sportsman drivers out onto the racetrack now. And again, it looks like we're going to have two groups here as well, the bottom half and the top half as well, going to work their way out onto the racetrack here now. But again, already, it's been a very, I should say, good start to qualifying. A couple of drivers have been surprising. A couple of others, you know, we didn't see them up at the top like we would have expected, Alex. But for some of these Sportsman drivers, it's going to be imperative for them to really setting good lap times here for their qualifying session.
Yeah, again, I'll be curious to see, because we saw in the senior light class, lap 2, maybe lap 3 was kind of the window in which you wanted to get your Vegas, you know, heated up, get the track position you want, get the lap time you want. Now, different for the cadets, right? Shorter wheelbase, a little bit different in the way you approach the tire. Let's see how, you know, the tire kind of comes in now, especially with the sun coming out. This is as hot as it's been probably all weekend. I think yesterday was a lot colder than it was. The clouds were out for most of the day yesterday. So this is a slightly different racetrack than what these drivers have faced throughout the weekend. So this is, I don't want to say an unknown because we've been here before, and a lot of drivers were here last year competing, have been in this racetrack before, whether it was for CKNA or for different series. But the way this track progresses, it's interesting, right? The rubber gets put down, especially with the Vegas. Now, I will say the one thing that CKNA does is usually after like qualifying and the heat races, they actually go out there with a blower and blow a lot of the marbles off the racetrack. And it doesn't reset the track, but at least it makes it to where there's a second lane again. So once we go racing, it'll be interesting to see how that kind of plays a factor. Now, for qualifying, they don't do that. So the marbles that start to develop will stay there. Now, you shouldn't really be offline in qualifying, but if you find yourself offline, well, life becomes a little bit more difficult than it would be if there's no marbles, because the next couple of corners are probably tougher for you than it is for the people around you if you were to go out there in the marbles. That being said, we're 2 laps in of the first of 2 groups for Sportsman. Jonathan Bohr tops the board of 49.201, 3/10 quicker than Cooper Mole at the moment. Logan McCloskey, Andrew Adams, Ryan Hall, your top 5 as it stands at the moment. Again, this is the first of 2 groups.
Yeah, first of 2 groups, and you talked about Bohr, Cooper Mole is up there as well, McCloskey, Adams, back to Ryan Hall, Wyatt Fink, Florida in 7, Saunders to Burklow, to Connard, your top 10 drivers. Nitro Kart at Bennick up there, a Tony Kart, a couple of Mark Steele, Burrell Arts as well, close to the front of the field. You talk about kind of everything offline and how they're kind of starting to clean it up. I don't know how much of a second lane we're going to have. It seems to me that everything offline is still very dusty, especially in turn 1, which I think the starts is going to be the biggest thing whenever we get into racing action. But for qualifying so far, everybody in this class seems a little bit spread out. Haven't seen too many drivers all too close to each other, and finding a good bit of track positions to just set in lap after lap and to really try and hit their markers here as well. We talked about the weather, 18-degree difference from today compared to yesterday. We were in the 50s yesterday. We're up to 68 degrees so far today, and again, very strong winds here as well. But that being said, checkered flag in the air. Jonathan Bohr currently quickest for the bottom half. Cooper Mole up to 2nd, Ryan Hall 3rd. It's Tony Kart Machine, back to Wyatt Fink. It is Bennick, McCloskey for Steele Motorsports. Your top 5 to Saunders, to Plord, Adams, Bell, and Connard, your top 10 for the bottom half of your Sportsman drivers here, Alex. And they're going to work their way into the pits, and the top half get set to hit the racetrack here in a couple of moments. And again, the interesting thing, especially for some of the younger drivers, it seemed like they could set in fast lap after fast lap all the way to lap 4. For the senior drivers, it seems like lap 1 or 2 is really that money lap for them, and that's just the biggest difference I think we've seen compared to the cadet categories with your kid karts, your cadets, and your Sportsmen, all the way up to your seniors, like your senior lights and a couple of your senior mediums as well, that have been really quick out there as well. So we'll see how they all kind of fare up here especially. But Austin Wyatt, Parker Ives, 2 drivers that we're just seeing on 2-cycle side of things, get into some 4-cycle racing action here this week. And I know Greg Ives out in Phoenix here today, and I'm sure you'll be joining us tomorrow to watch Parker get into racing action and main event action as well tomorrow. Aston Wyatt right alongside him on what was a good good race in Texas not too long ago on the 206 Cadet side of things. Was able to get the win there in the rain. A lot drier here in a different tire compound, but I'm sure they're getting set to hit the racetrack here in a couple of moments. So we'll see how these two Nitro Kart boys who topped the timing charts yesterday in the happy hour session, they're going to lead the field out here for their qualifying session.
The question is now, if your park arrives, normally, right, if you're in Nitro Kart racing, this is a dream situation, right? Your top two guys are 1 and 2 rolling off the qualifying. They can work together. But we've touched on it throughout the qualifying sessions. No pushing allowed, right? And so if your park arrives, the question is, do you feel like you're quick enough to go out there and put laps down by yourself? Or if you're Aston Wyatt, is your speed similar enough or maybe the same as Parker Ives to where you go out there, give Parker a slight gap, and then get a good tow? So that's just, again, a little bit of the chess game that we haven't really touched on too much for the drivers that roll off first, second, you know, the first of their, I guess, rows, so to speak. So the driver rolls off first, third, fifth, seventh. They're almost leading their rows out onto the racetrack, and so they're essentially the ones that are pulling the drivers behind them. Now, on that same logic, right, if you were quicker than them in happy hour, well, you'd hope to be quicker than them in qualifying, but it's not always the case. So, again, chess games, always a factor in 206 racing, in racing as a whole, but especially around this racetrack, it can be tough. And oftentimes, from what I've noticed, the drivers that were quickest in happy hour weren't always the ones that put it on pole in qualifying.
Yeah, definitely not. And again, this session has a lot of drivers that are going to be very, very quick. We talked about the two drivers on the front row. I believe Camila Canache out there. You talk about, you know, a lot more. Thickpin, Hayden Lawson, RJ Brown, Gavin Dyer, Parker Stewart, and a lot more getting set to hit the racetrack here as well in the second half. Drew Blem and more here working their way out now. And we'll see. You know, we talked about the lap times and how some of the earlier laps were a little bit quicker for the seniors, and some of the later laps were a little bit quicker for the cadet categories. And again, we're expecting to see, I believe, for the cadet categories, lap 4 is going to be the lap where we're going to see some of the fastest times as well go out there for some of these drivers. But Parker Ives, Aston Wyatt lead this field away as we follow around the 619 at the moment there as well with Milo Gabaldi out there in the 619 machine.
Something to note here, just from that first group, 6 of the top 10 drivers put their best lap on the 4th and final lap. One of them being Jonathan Moore, who right now provisionally sits on pole. Parker Ives, after 1 lap, puts it P3. Aston Wyatt goes top of the board, a 49.186. Gavin Dyer goes to 3rd. There goes Cade Wolf to the top there on the comp cart with Timmy Tech. So the 154 machine, again, a 48.898. We can expect the lap times to continue to fall. This is only the first of 4 laps of qualifying, but like we've touched on, these tires seem to like the Sportsman chassis, at least enough to last 4 laps in that peak window. Whereas in the senior class, it seems like these guys are getting their best laps, lap 2, lap 3. So let's see if it remains the same for the faster of the 2 Sportsman groups. Parker Ives going to round the final corner here to cross the line to finish his 2nd lap in qualifying. It's good enough for P2. There goes Aston Wyatt. He goes to 4th. RJ Brown to 3rd on his first lap there. And then Gavin Dyer on the Nitro Kart goes to the top of 48.882. So it's Nitro Kart 1, 3, and 5 with a Maranello with RJ Brown and 4th. Cade Wolf doesn't improve. A 50.495. I wonder if he got some traffic there for Cade Wolf. So he's going to have to regroup and reset and go after it for a 3rd lap there. But again, we know these tires can last the full 4 laps, and usually they're pretty kind on the tire and can last quite a bit without really falling off lap time wise, as RJ Brown goes a 48.6, 2/10 on the field.
Yeah, really good lap that time by the Maranello driver, and RJ Brown to put himself top of the timing charts. Aston Wyatt, Parker Ives getting set to cross this time by. Parker this time around up to 2nd, about 100th off, and Aston Wyatt goes to the top of the timing charts in the 221 Nitro Kart machine. Aston, a lot of experience in 206 racing and is very, I guess, frequent in the 206 chassis. For Parker Ives, hasn't been in a 206 since this event last year. Been very busy running junior up at some of the Trackhouse Club races as well as having a really good year last year on the Mini Swift side of things with a couple of championships to his name. But a couple of the other drivers, there's the driver in fifth for Nitro Kart for Gavin Dyer. Again, a good showing for him. And how about the new gen driver as well, and Daniel Dragunov, currently up to fourth for the 151.
Yeah, I was about to mention on that Kart Republic there, looks pretty racy. The fourth and final lap in the books for Parker Ives. He goes to the top. Aston Wyatt by 1/1000th of a second goes to P1. I have to wonder if maybe there's a slight toe involved for the 221. Doesn't look like it. Aston Wyatt puts it on pole provisionally. RJ Brown still has one more lap to go on his Maranello. Cade Wolf to fourth. Dragunov doesn't improve. He goes to fifth. Gavin Dyer to sixth. RJ Brown doesn't improve. Laney Thigpen doesn't improve. Keegan Irwin improves to eighth. Hayden Lawson, Ryder Thompson, no improvement for them. Aston Wyatt, if you can really write a story for Nitro Kart, this is the dream beginning. A 1-2 in Sportsman, 1,000 separates the top two, 7,000 separates your top three. If I had a qualifying session to sum up Sportsman racing, it's this one.
That is a very good qualifying session for Aston Wyatt. Top of the timing charts, Parker Ives to RJ Brown, Wolf, Dragunov, Dyer, Thigpen, Irwin, Lawson, and Thompson, your top 10. You go back to Jonathan Bohr, Drew Blem, Wyatt Howell, Cooper Mole, and Parker Stewart, your top 15 for the Coyote BJR PPK team. And then you go back to the back half of your field, your top 20 with Hall, Gabaldi, Fink, McCloskey, Sounders, Plord, Adams, Bell, Connard, and more in the Sportsman field. But we have a battle for the lead here. Parker Ives, Aston Wyatt, two Nitro Karts getting set to lead the Sportsman field out to green whenever we get into heat racing action on the other side of the lunch break. Alex here. That was Sportsman. Coming up next, your Masters drivers for two halves as well. Again, that'll be, I think, one of the first times that we see Mark Steele hit the racetrack on his brand new Stealth chassis by Burrell Art for Cycle Specific, as well as a couple of others. Josh Smoker, former MLB pitcher as well, finding love in racing here as well. His dad as well, Mr. Smoker, making those gears that have been, I think, one of the biggest things that have overtaken the paddock in recent memory. But Masters getting set to hit the racetrack here in a couple of moments. We'll take our last commercial break of our free coverage here. When we come back, the rest of your Masters out on the racetrack and your senior medium qualifying session as well coming up next.
Brandon, why are there all these charges for just over $200?
I'm tired of all this branding business, okay? Branding this, branding that. Why are there all these expenses on AKR over $200? We know, okay? Take a walk with me. At Shop AKR, they have everything you need to start racing at a very cheap and affordable price. They have MXC rims, they got chains, electrical stands, tilt seats. They got MXCs, and if you didn't know, on top of that, any purchase in the continental U.S. over $200, that's free shipping.
Hey, aren't you supposed to be in the AKR Anonymous meeting over there?
Dude, I'm doing a commercial.
Dude, we have no time. It's about to start.
Stop. We all love Shop AKR. Me? More than others. What do I get at Shop AKR?
MXC rims.
All the way up to the finish line. Who is it going to be? And it's Sean Perez who wins in Crescent.
Ty Fisher wins $1,000 in KA100 Junior.
Alex Stanfield played it perfectly here. Told him to wait. Stanfield wins the Duffy in 2024 for TV Karts.
Amarillo Kart Complex is now the official distributor for TV Kart in the continental U.S. Become a dealer today.
Ready to elevate your racing game? Introducing Apex, your 24/7 personal karting coach. Apex is your ultimate racing companion. Get expert advice anytime, anywhere. From setup tips to mental strategies, Apex has you covered. Fine-tune your car for peak performance. Get personalized advice on adjustments like tire pressure and chassis settings. Apex helps you master the track, from overtaking strategies to wet weather driving techniques, and to resilience to perform under pressure. Apex keeps you focused, confident, and race ready.
Using Apex is simple. Sign up, ask your question, and receive instant advice from top-tier coaches. With Apex, your personal karting coach, you're never alone. Get instant expert advice on everything from setup to technique. Unlock your full potential with Apex. Your journey to victory starts here. Happy racing.
Welcome back here to qualifying action. Your Masters, the bottom half, out on the racetrack now. Again, a couple of the same drivers that you see doing double duty in Legends and in Masters out there on the racetrack. Andrew Grenier, the 404, currently top of the timing charts. Josh Smoker in second. Eric King, David Anderson, and it was there for a second. Kevin Medeiros and Doug Hutchinson was able to get that done. Hutchison, sorry, goodness gracious, these names are definitely getting to me. When you have about 384 names, Alec, it definitely gets a little challenging at times, but hey, this is our job, and gotta get good at this, right? So we'll get down to it, but still at the top, the 404 of Grenier in this Masters class, and again, this is only the bottom half. Top half getting set to hit the racetrack. We'll see Dr. Todd Barron, Mark Steele as well hit the racetrack later on.
2 laps in the books for a handful of drivers, and Josh Smoker goes to the top, a 49.324 ahead of Andrew Grenier there. He doesn't improve on his second lap. So now, again, more intel. What does the progression of this tire look like for some of the Masters guys, right? Their approach to qualifying is probably a little bit different than some of the senior light guys, right? Maybe they're not going to attack the racetrack as hard. Maybe they'll be kinder on the opening stages of their tire, and I'll be curious to see what the peak window looks like. Again, I don't want to sit here and act like this tire falls off, right? The lap times will probably be the exact same for the heat races, but it seems like the nature of when you're by yourself, that peak window for a lot of these senior guys is lap 2, lap 3, and lap 4 oftentimes is actually not the best lap for a lot of these guys. And again, Smoker and Grenier, no improvement on their third lap. David Anderson doesn't improve. Joe DeBover there actually does improve on his third lap. Quinn Dewsbury doesn't improve on his third lap. So of the entire top 10, only one driver sets a personal best on their third lap. So now we're on our 4th lap here. Will there be any improvements? Again, this is the first of 2 groups for our Masters drivers, but this seems to be the story. Lap 2, you really got to put yourself in a good position to get a good lap in.
Yeah, Josh Smoker here working around, no toe for him, but still top of the timing charts, and what could be his final lap this time around, I believe, for Josh. Going to cross the stripe here, and it looks like checkered flag in the air. Josh Smoker got it, doesn't improve in his 4th lap. His best lap still 2nd. The driver that did improve, Kyle Robinson on the MGM, a 49.339. DeBover crossed, I believe, there as well, and I'm not sure these drivers are going to get another lap. So it looks like Josh Smoker, top of the bottom half here of Masters. And again, we'll see if that lap was good enough to mesh in well with that top half that is still getting set to hit the racetrack. And as well for Josh, and you lived this weekend, saw it on his social media, a very, very nice one, I should say, with again, one of the Mike Smoker gears right on top, and a very, very cool helmet. And some very cool liveries as well here this weekend. A shout out to Jeff Shaw with Shaw Stickers watching on from home. I know he's done a lot and been busy for all the, getting all these new liveries ready as well for all these drivers with new fairings and whatnot. A couple of the fancier ones as well that we're going to see with some of the new KG fairings, some of the new OTK fairings as well here. But we'll see how it stacks up for some of these drivers. Not going to matter all too much, but just all about looks, right? You look good, you feel good, and then you end up racing good, hopefully. Most of the time, hopefully it transfers up to being just as fast as your kart looks, right?
I gotta say, you can hear it in the cameras. I saw it earlier with some of the flagpoles. It's gotten windy out there, Caleb.
Very.
And the wind's blowing kind of against the drivers when they get to that back straightaway. So
I don't like, and that's one thing that I'm gonna say, right? I don't know if you've been one of those guys to change gear whenever you have a headwind or a tailwind, either add teeth or drop teeth as well, because that could also affect the gear, especially on a straightaway. And you look how, how the wind is kind of affecting the racetrack here.
yeah, it depends. I mean, it takes a lot of wind for me to even touch the go-kart. I'm not the tallest guy in the world, so it affects me less than it would somebody else. But no matter what, it does play a factor. More so during race situations where, for example, if we're going on that back straightaway right now, the draft would be worth a lot. The draft would be worth a lot.
28 miles an hour.
Whereas if you saw, if you had a tailwind, for example, not so much, because the tailwinds, advantaged the driver in front. So with a tailwind, the draft just means a whole lot less. But with a headwind, you are punching 2, 3, 4 times as big of a hole as you normally would if you're the driver in front in a group. So the drivers behind have a much easier time drafting up to you, drafting past you sometimes. And that's where in race trim, gear matters more, I'd say, when it gets windier. Where in qualifying, I probably wouldn't touch the go-kart. In the race situations, if the wind keeps up like this, and a couple of people may need to take a second look at their awnings a little bit with the way this wind is starting to really pick up. You can see the flags really starting to fly up in the wind. So again, hold on to your trailers, hold on to your tents there, hold on to your go-karts maybe, I don't know. Hold on to your kids if they're trying to fly away, some of the kid kart kids. So nonetheless, these drivers going out there, they obviously didn't have a chance to go change the gear if they even wanted to, because they were on the grid when the wind really picked up. So I'll be curious to see and maybe hear during the lunch break if I get a chance to speak to a couple of drivers if the wind played a factor, if they changed the gear, and we can go and relay that information to you guys a little bit later on during the heat races. But the second of 2 Masters groups heading out onto the racetrack, and we mentioned it, right? This Masters class, a lot of drivers running double duty, some running Masters and Legends, some running Masters and Heavy, some running just Masters. The 115 is Zach Lindsell. I got to say, speaking of Paul Rice on the Grid Talk this past week, made me feel pretty old. This is a driver that was my first ever teammate in go-karting. He was 28 when we were teammates. And then he told me he's running Masters, and that means he has to be 35. He has a kid now. And here I am announcing for him. So I feel pretty old. It's my first time probably ever having a bit of an old moment at the ripe age of 21. So nonetheless, Zach Lindsell, a driver that no matter what class, light, medium, heavy, now Masters, a driver everyone's always watching.
And there you go, up to the top of the timing charts. And for Eric Fagan as well, on his first race with the Steel Motorsports camp, and his first race on a Burrell as well, again, was on that MGM for quite some time, had a couple of good results, and now Eric Fagan, the number 1 plate, moves over to Master to the Burrell Art Camp with Mark Steele as it was up there on the racetrack, debuting a new chassis for him as well, the Stealth chassis by Burrell Art. A couple of other drivers, pretty good showing so far, inside of the top 5 for Ian McIntyre. Currently 4th, Eli Yanko 6th, Brad Davis, John Price, and Jamie Bradford, Ron Kleiss currently 10th, and you see the start of those fast laps starting to come in, and we're just 1 lap in. Again, the fast lap we're usually seeing is lap 2. Mark Steele was able to improve. Eric Fagan didn't. Neither did Zach Lindsell. That time around for Mark Steele, a 48.653. That's currently his best lap, and more improvement up to the top. John Price, Chris Carroll, the Coyotes starting to come to life here. Sean Meyer up to 7th.
Yeah, less than a 10th separates your top 4. Mark Steele just outside that 1/10 window in 5th. Go-kart looking maybe a little bit too free almost for Mark Steele's liking, but I know that's how he likes to roll around this place, and I touched on it earlier, that usually is the fastest way around this racetrack. There is obviously pros and cons to it, and there's such a thing as being too free. We'll see if it plays out that way on this 3rd lap. Lindsell, a 48.466. He improves in his 3rd lap. Fagan doesn't. McIntyre does. Steele does not. So again, part of it's tire pressures, part of it's driving style, part of it's just the way this tire is taking to the racetrack. Not many improvements on their 3rd lap. Brad Davis improves. Sean Meyer improves as well, goes to 4th. So this fourth and final lap here is going to be interesting to see if anybody improves. You see Mark Steele with the really famous tuck. He seems to go lower in the go-kart than everybody else does. We'll see if it helps him out on this fourth lap.
Yeah, Mark Steele down in 9th at the moment. And he seems very busy on that steering wheel there, Alex, kind of, trying to get through this back section. We'll see if he can improve any bit. Zach Linzel first across the line. We'll see if he can improve on his fourth and final lap. He does not. Still holds on to the provisional pole position. Eric Fagan doesn't improve. Like Ian McIntyre couldn't either. Mark Steele as well goes up to second. So a good final lap for Mark Steele to get himself on the front row of 48.517. So about half a tenth off to the lap time that the MGM of Zach Linzel was able to run. And again, you talked about one of the younger drivers in this field, so a good showing so far. A couple of the Coyotes crossing now. No improvement. Checkered flag still waving. Last couple crossing here. Don't want to call it too early, but it's looking good for the MGM Espionage team and Zach Linzel to hold on to that pole position. Here comes James Perkins. And I don't think he was able to get himself up there, and he wasn't. But what a start to this one. Zach Linzel on the pole in Masters. Mark Steele across the line second, and he did it on his fourth lap, so took a lot to get it out of there. But he was able to get it done, and on the front row, John Price to Davis, Chris Carroll up into the top 5, Eric Fagan, Sean Meyer, Zach McIntyre, the driver who I believe not populating an 8th. I'm not sure who's supposed to be, but Ron Kleiss, Jamie Bradford.
I think that was James Perkins' name.
That could have been James Perkins as well, getting himself up in an 8th. Ron Kleiss, Jamie Bradford, Sean O'Shea, David Patrick, Ryan Sporowski on the Happy Kart 14th. You go back to a couple of more. Todd Barron, I believe, was the driver in 5th, and Indeed.
Yeah. If you want to know how stacked this Masters class is, former Grand Nats winner, 15th year in Masters for Todd Barron. And you look at the likes of this field, right? If you want to know what race you're in store for, less than 2/10 separates your top 10 here in Masters. And again, it's headed by the youngest driver in the field, Zach Linzel, but old enough to run Masters nonetheless. And this is a stacked crew. They always put on a show for us here at the CKNA Spring Nights.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the Masters drivers as well. I mean, some of the really, really good racing action here as well. Senior Medium is getting set to hit the racetrack here in a couple of moments, and we'll take a 30-minute break for lunch for our hard-working KC crew, and our CKNA staff will be back hot at 1:45, and that'll be the start of our premium coverage for heat races and main event racing action. If you want to watch the racing action live later on today and tomorrow for main event racing, $9.99 a month. You can become a KC Premium member and watch all the racing action live. Make sure you do it on a Windows or on a desktop computer, or else Apple and any iOS device tacks on an extra $3 that we don't see. So again, make sure you do it on a computer or a laptop or whatever you have close to you, an Android device as well, to pay the $9.99 a month to see all the racing action and see your favorite drivers as well hit the racetrack. If not, then we'll see you bright and early tomorrow morning for the warm-up sessions as well that are going to be free for everybody to view before we get into main event racing action. We have the NASCAR experience right behind us. And speaking of NASCAR, a couple of the drivers that raced this race last year, Connor Zilich, Brent Cruz got a win yesterday at the ARCA Menard Series. Connor got a win 2 weeks ago, or last week I should say, at COTA at Circuit of the Americas in the Xfinity race, and made his Cup Series debut. And those are two drivers that race senior medium, senior light, as well for the Nitro Kart team on MGM chassis. So let's talk about those drivers. And again, they didn't win, and that's a testament to how good these drivers here in the 206 category, some of the best in four-cycle competition in the entire world. And they get set to hit the racetrack. The senior medium split up into 3 groups: the bottom third, the middle third, and the top third, with some of the drivers that we're used to seeing in senior light. A couple as well running senior medium. This is the class where they all meet up and try and go at it to see who's the fastest in the headline class here as well. They're getting set to hit the racetrack here in a couple of moments' time. This class getting set to roll at about 1:21 p.m. local time. We're about 1 minute away. It's actually time now for the senior mediums to hit the racetrack. 1:21 on the dot. And we'll have them rolling here at any time now. So good for everybody here to stay on schedule. I believe I made a mistake there earlier. 1:45 is the time the lunch break starts. The heat races start at 2:20 p.m. local time. And again, looks like a couple of drivers getting gridded up. And that's the paint you see going on the carburetor. That's a part of tech. You're not allowed to work on them after the weekend started. If you do need to change something or adjust something, then you have to go back into tech and do it in front of them. But you cannot break the paint seals here in tech, and that's one of the things that kind of goes into it. So if you find yourself off track, get some dirt in that carburetor, then take it back over to tech and try and get that cleaned up in any way possible. But besides that, you cannot break the seals, the paint seals that are put on the carburetors here. So shows you the hard work the tech team has done, and again, keeping everything as even as possible here as well. So we'll see how they all roll out, but a lot of drivers in this field. It looks like Bryce Frank, who was inside of the top 10 in senior heavy, finds himself starting at the rear end of this qualifying group on his AR Academy MGM Texas machine there for Bryce Frank. So a lot of work for him to do, and again, imperative for him to put himself in a good position here in this qualifying session. And we saw Nick Zobiak not have the worst of qualifyings in senior heavy, so we'll see what Bryce Frank can do on his MGM machine.
Yeah, again, I mentioned it earlier, right? Groups matter to an extent, but if you're quick and you have the timing down and you could really, take advantage of the draft, no pushing allowed, but drafting, you can't take away drafting, right? So no matter what, if you can get the timing down, if you're Bryce Frank and you know your machine is quick enough to go out there and put yourself in the top half of the field, maybe even higher up, you got to go out there and do it, right? So for Bryce Frank, again, no surprise that he's going out there and putting his foot to the floor and seeing what he can do. Again, opening couple of laps seemed to be the best, but we just saw in the Masters class, a couple of drivers in the top 5 made it work on that 4th lap. So again, part of it is always going to be tire pressures. Part of it's going to be the way the tire is taken to the racetrack and vice versa. And so it seems like the general consensus is after lap 2, it gets tougher on the driver. It really just depends on how you brought it in, and again, what setup you got going on, what tire pressures you rolled off onto the racetrack with. So no matter what, first couple laps in the books here, Scott Clayman there tops the board on his first lap. Second lap doesn't improve. Harrison Browning, Cooper Redditch, Jack Hughes now goes to the top at a 48.724 on that MGM. Lap times will continue to tumble as this session goes on, but at the moment, it is 300th separating your top 5.
Yeah, really good start there, and again, more shuffling. Chase Adams on a Tony Kart goes to the top of the timing charts. Jack Hughes back to second. And you see this little bit of battling in between some drivers here in this group. And again, position, making sure your front bumper doesn't touch that rear bumper of somebody else, and that's Clement out there. Currently sits 6th in this group and making moves. So important to get those out of the way early and try and get yourself in a good position. Cash Perkins up to the top now. Claiming going to be a burner on lap number 3, and it should be white flag this time around. Perkins currently top of the timing charts, and I believe the tallest driver here this weekend, the number 13 of Linus Gugino on the Happy Kart, finds himself in second. Jack Hughes, Chase Adams, back to Arsene Blanc in 5th.
Yeah, a couple of drivers yet to see the 3rd lap, so they still got 2 more, but a couple of them, most of them at this point have crossed the line for their 3rd lap, so most of them on their 4th and final lap. Perkins improves on his already provisional pole lap of a 48.189. This is, like we mentioned though, the first of 3 senior medium groups. 78 go-karts entered this weekend of a max allowed of 88. So I believe the biggest class we got on deck this weekend, 71, was senior light. So a lot of go-karts, no question as to why we split them up into 3 different groups. Checker flag waves for some. Some will still see the white flag if they haven't seen it already. No improvements for Jack Hughes. William Zuba goes to 6th on his 4th lap. Peyton Klein, no improvement. Scott Clayman, no improvement. Alex Greensweg Harrison Browning doesn't improve. Let's see if Cash Perkins can create a larger gap than he already has to Gugino. Does not. A 48.189 is the lap time that groups 2 and 3 are all going to have to chase.
And again, a very steep hill to climb for some of these drivers. Matt Lyda, 23rd, I believe, and a couple of more. We talk about Bryce Frank finding himself in this back half of the group. I don't think he was inside of the top 10, and I think maybe even outside of the top 15. Not sure where he stacked up here, but unfortunate qualifying there for Frank. And again, the second half getting set to hit the racetrack, or I should say second, third, getting set to hit the racetrack. Looks like Logan Stevens, maybe one of the first ones. Ben Lyda as well. His brother just came off the racetrack. So a lot more. Colin Aitken in this group. Reagan Seville looks to find himself in this group as well on his Trackside Karting Services GFC. And a couple of more drivers. We'll look out for some of those names like Nicholas Kiefer there. And I don't know, is that Caleb G there? It looks like Caleb G going out in the second group. So again, it shows you how important that happy hour session can be. But it's some good drivers ahead of him. Him and Colin Aiken, two of the MGMs in this field, going to be looking to work together here.
Yeah, I think Caleb G, a driver that we know can just put a burner whenever he needs to, right? And like you mentioned, he's rolling off 2 go-karts essentially behind Colin Aiken, another driver that we can expect to see towards the front on that MGM machine. So it won't be a shock if those 2 drivers especially can go out there and put a lap good enough for maybe pole or close to it. But again, shows you how stacked this field is. A lot of really good drivers here in this second group, as were in the first group, right? So again, when you have 78 go-karts entered in one class, I touched on it earlier during warm-up, there's about 15 to 20, maybe you could even argue 25 drivers that on any given day, if they got it right, can go out there and win in this class.
Yeah, there's Hunter Bolton as well, who I believe is Sprocket. The chain slipped off and just destroyed the sprocket he had on that on his Coyote machine. So found himself, fighting in happy hour to keep that chain on. And again, a lot of work for him to do. Really good pace from yesterday, keeping up with the likes of Colin Warren and Owen Lloyd and a couple of other drivers. So a lot of work for Hunter Bolton to do here in this one. We'll see what he can do in his MGM machine. Logan Stevens as well, very good in the heavy class. We'll see what how he shapes up. In this medium class. And for Reagan Seville, coming fresh off a Texas Sprint Racing Series win at Speed Sports Racing Park, coming out here to Charlotte Motor Speedway, looking to put his GFC to the top of the timing charts. But already, what a start for Caleb G. A 47.874. Gavin Isaacs with Steel Motorsports in a second. Colin Aiken third. Perkins falls back to fourth, and Ben Lyda as well up to fifth.
Yeah, no surprise there for Caleb G to put a 47.8 on the board in his first lap. Again, lap times will get quicker as this session goes on. Let's see, Hunter Bolton goes to fifth. Carson Bartlett goes to sixth. Ben Lyda seventh. So already this second group a lot quicker on their first lap than the first group was. Caleb G on the back of the 25 machine there on his second lap. Let's see if it's affected Gafera at all. Across the stripe, you can't push here. And again, no improvement for Caleb Gafera. So I wonder if there was a lift involved earlier on in this lap and maybe caught the 25 a little bit quicker than he would have liked. So on this lap, I wonder if he's going to elect to back out of it or try to get around the 25 here and get one more lap together for his fourth lap. He's going to go around. So this fourth lap coming up is going to be the lap for Caleb G to look out for.
Yeah, we'll see. Lap 3 going to be a burner here, having to make a move, but lap 4 definitely looking to be like the money lap there for Caleb G. Looks like Reagan Seville, Gavin Isaacs trying to own the same piece of real estate out there on the racetrack, and the two of them not sure what it's going to look like for Reagan Seville. Did find himself inside of the top 10. I believe he fell off just a little bit in 16th at the moment for Reagan Seville, but a couple of others working their way inside of the top 10. Jed Perkins up to 9th. Justin Wishard as well up to 10th, and no improvement. Again, Colin Aiken was able to improve on his third lap of 48.004. Lasheray in fourth, Ben Lyda. Hunter Bolton up to 6th. So some improvement throughout the field, but for the likes of Caleb G having to make a move that time by. We'll see what he can do. Looks like the 25 Charles Leclerc machine's going to have a good lap this time by, chasing around the MGM.
Sam Avrutsky got passed by Caleb Guerrero last time by. We were talking about it. This lap seems to be pretty solid for Sam. I think Caleb Guerrero still pulled away slightly here, but I will be curious to see what this lap looks like, not only for Caleb G, but for Avrutsky here. Across the stripe, checkered flags in the air for the 704. No improvement. Avrutsky improves to 7th. Isaacs doesn't improve. Reagan Seville does, goes to 5th. Ben Light at a 2nd here in the second group. How many more improvements will we see? LaCherie doesn't improve in 6th. A couple more drivers getting ready to see the checkered flag. Hunter Bolton being one of them down in 7th. Do we have an improvement? I think the wind might have caught one of our cameras there, but nonetheless, no more improvements for Isaacs, for Aitken, for LaCherie, for Bolton, Perkins, and Bartlett as well. So Caleb Guerrero provisionally on pole position. One more group to go to see if they can knock off the MGM driver.
Yeah, we'll see. The gap in between first and second isn't all too big. It's a 10th back to third in Gavin Isaacs, but very, very close margins here. Alex, talk about Caleb G. And again, Ben Lida, first and second. We'll see, but yeah, that's going to be a wild one. And again, you saw our camera fall over there. Hopefully Jerry Pandry's doing all right. But again, shows you how strong the winds are out here at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it's just imperative that you put yourself in a good position. You see it on the flags, just under 30-mile-an-hour winds here, so it's a tricky day. It's a tricky day for sure for some of these drivers.
I can't confirm though. Camera's all good. We just got a chance to look at it there, but the same camera that got knocked over by the wind was able to show us a pretty good shot of the wind.
There you go.
It's only getting windier out there, so for our camera guys, especially Jerry Fandry, hold on to those cameras, boys. It's going to be a windy rest of the day here, and resident weatherman Carson Clements here in the booth with us. He warned us about the wind, and he was right.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So shout out Georgia Tech for Carson Clements. But the top half, top third of your senior medium drivers getting set to hit the racetrack. Looks like Jared Clark going to be one of the first ones to go out for the Coyote PPK boys. And again, no Paulie Massimino, no Brandon Jarscrack this weekend. So for James, for Christopher, and for Jared, going to have to put that Coyote chassis up to the front of the field. This is it. The last group of qualifying getting set to hit the racetrack, and this will be the end of our free coverage as well. We'll go behind the paywall, and for our premium members, only $9.99 a month. Become a KC Premium member and watch all the racing action live. You're definitely not going to want to miss any of the action at the Charlotte Motor Speedway and that the CKNA drivers are about to provide for us later on in the day. Make sure to do it on an Android or a desktop computer. If you do it on an iOS device, it's going to charge you an extra $3, which we don't see. And you're just going to be paying $3 extra a month. So you subscribe just to $9.99, and we'll see you guys on the other side of the paywall. But one more group, and after this will be the end of our free coverage once we hit the lunch break. But already, the Coyote PPK boys out there, Eli Warren getting set to hit the racetrack, as well as Henry Wheeler and a couple of more. Kelvin Zing at the back, as well as Brady Atwood right next to him, Cameron Reed, and more hitting the racetrack now. So it's all about putting yourself in a good spot on the racetrack and setting a fast lap.
Well, that is always the goal in qualifying, but it's a lot easier said than done. Importance on happy hour, but it isn't everything. We've seen drivers all throughout the qualifying sessions so far this morning and really into the afternoon now. We're already at 1:34 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, final qualifying session before the lunch break at 1:45. And then we'll be back for some heat racing action to close out the day and go under the lights as the night goes on later this afternoon. But right now, 4 green flag laps for these senior medium drivers to try to knock off the MGM of Caleb Guerrero up top. McKeith across the line. He goes to 10th. Jared Clark on his first lap already tops the board on that Coyote machine. Colin Warren to P2. Dylan Amundsen, Christopher Wakefield, Henry Wheeler. These first laps are flying. The second group is already starting to be knocked off here.
Yeah, lap 2 was a lap that we were talking about, was probably going to be the fastest. And again, Caleb G was fastest in that middle group, finds himself down in a 6th and continuing to drop down the pylon there on the left-hand side of your screen. A lot more drivers as well making up some gains. Jared Clark, Colin Warren, James Overbeck, Henry Wheeler, and Eli Fox. Your top 5 in the senior medium qualifying session. A 47.708 for Jared Clark. We'll see if he can improve this time around. Teammates Wakefield, McKeithen just ahead of him. What does it look like this time by for the Coyote boys? No improvement across the board. Wakefield goes up to 9th. Dylan Amundsen for the MGM boys up to 8th. A 47.903 for Amundsen.
Wheeler doesn't improve. Warren and Clark don't improve either. Overbeck and Fox are getting ready to cross the line. Overbeck doesn't improve. So no improvements for anybody inside the top 4 on their second lap. Owen Lloyd does. Lloyd to P3 there. Eli Fox waiting to cross the line for him. Austin Hill goes to 4th. Let's see if these drivers can continue to, find some pace on board their senior medium machines. We see Jared Clark getting around a driver there. I didn't get a chance to see the number, but Jared Clark, this may not be a great lap for him if he had to make a pass and he couldn't do it that cleanly. We'll have to see how it stands when they cross the stripe. No improvement for Clark. Amundsen again improves. Dylan goes to P6. Warren doesn't improve. So for the top 2 drivers in senior medium at the moment, their best lap is lap 1.
Yeah, Amundsen's just been chipping away at it here at the moment, lap 3. And again, he's one of the drivers that it looks like may be able to improve his 4th lap. And he's just out there on his own. No toe ahead for him for Dylan Amundsen. Finds himself in 6th. Overbeck up to 5th. Austin Hill doesn't improve on his 3rd lap. We'll see what Wakefield, McKeithen, and Jared Clark can do on their Coyote machines this time around. I think it's going to be the checkered flag. We'll look over to Jason Burgess, what he has in his hand here, and I think indeed it's going to be the checkered flag. First to come across, Christopher McKeithen. Can he improve? He doesn't. Jared Clark does. McKeithen improves as well to the top of the pylon, a 47.679. Warren doesn't improve. Across the line next. Not enough. Henry Wheeler can't go any quicker. Next couple, Eli Warren, James Overbeck. Overbeck doesn't improve. And I think it's looking good for Christopher McKeithen. Owen Lloyd was one of the drivers who improved earlier on. He does, but only 3rd. Best for Owen Lloyd on that MGM machine. Can anybody else pull something out of the bag? I don't think it's going to be enough. Christopher McKeithen, the 2023 Grand National Champion. Your pole sitter here, and Jared Clark, who found himself fighting in the LCQ last year in Senior Light, finds himself in the main event. Finds himself on the front row here. My apologies there for Jared Clark. What a showing.
Game. What a chess game. Jared Clark passed McKeithen at the end of their 2nd going into their 3rd lap. McKeithen basically burned the 3rd lap knowing that the 4th lap was going to be the lap where he got the toe off of Jared Clark. And it worked in his favor. Jared Clark put down some really good laps. His best lap, lap 1, good enough for P2. But for McKeithen, what a way to kind of play the cards in your favor. Puts it P1, less than a 10th separates your top 4. McKeithen, Clark, Lloyd, Warren, and Hill. Coyote, 3 of the 5 in the top 5 with an MGM and VLR at 3rd and 4th.
A lot of help there for those BJR PPK Coyotes who are going to lead this field away. Owen Lloyd, Warren, Henry Wheeler, Fox, and Caleb G. able to hold on to a top 10 start here. But again, that's been it for our free coverage here at the CKNA Spring Nationals. Lunch break getting set to go underway. We'll be back at 2:20 p.m. local time here for the start of our heat racing action. And again, for only $9.99 a month, become a KC Premium member and watch all the racing action live. We're at America's home for racing at the Charlotte Motor Speedway. We'll see you back here in 30 minutes time.